Welcome back to Squawking Dead. We're so excited. There's so many things in the pipeline. It's just so excited. I'm really annoying people right now.
I know we should ask for the feedback. Feedback. You can always give us feedback, actually.
Feedback. Was that noise very annoying? Thank you.
Hey.
It's not going to stop here. Welcome back to Squawking Dead, everybody. We've got a lot of things to talk about. Among them being we're attending Walker Stalker Con in Atlanta, Georgia.
I'm quite nervous.
And she's quite nervous. I don't get nervous until the moment.
I was going to say you never get nervous.
I'm fearless. And so full of confidence, too.
There you go.
So Walker Stalker Con is happening. We'll be there. We are working on a couple of things we're going to keep on the down low, and we're going to be kind of weird. I've thought of them. I haven't really communicated them to Carol so much, really. She knows some major things. Yes, everybody's chiming in. It is great. I'm overjoyed by that, everybody. And Carol is too. No, she's more nervous than overjoyed.
You know, it's a mixture. It's like I get I'm excited, but I'm also nervous at the same time. And to be honest with you, it's kind of like my first convention ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've been attending MagFest for years.
To be honest with you, oh, really? See, I haven't gone to like a convention at all. And so it's kind of actually a good thing because we've always wanted to go to Comic-Con, which is like the mother, obviously, of all conventions. So this will be dipping my feet in the water of conventions.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is quite a jump. I mean,
I know. It's still significant.
Yeah, even for me, it's kind of interesting because I've always attended MagFest, and even though they have like YouTube creators that are on all the time there, and like quite significant ones, like Ego Raptor and all these video game kind of reviewers, slapstick dudes, whatever. Yeah. So that's fine. The stakes aren't crazy high. These people are a lot more down to earth. Looking at Walker Stalker's Instagram feed, that's when I start getting really, really nervous because I'm trying to figure out. It's not even like it's part of it is like what am I going to say to all these people? How do I want to approach it? Do I want to approach it as a podcaster? Then I'm afraid I'm going to turn on the ham a little too much. I know.
I don't know. Like I feel like in general in my life I just kind of wing it. Unfortunately, I feel like that's been my approach to many things, and it's kind of worked out. So I feel like I'm going to think about it quite a bit, and then I'm just going to end up being there and just being like, okay. It's like, all right, let's see how this goes. Like, I don't know, because you're right. You have to think about like, well, okay, how am I going into this as? I don't know, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to figure out, I'm gonna kind of form a game plan and share it with you so we can kind of compare notes. I mean, the idea is that, so to kind of let some of the cat out of the bag, is that I mean we're obviously going to have some recording equipment. I'm obviously going to hook it. I'm going to try to hook it up to my phone. So we're going to try to do some video. I think as we go. I have some lav mics that we're going to hook up to each other. Hey guys.
Hi.
And we're going to, and we're going to just walk around. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, I want to meet Nashville Negan. Shout out.
Oh my gosh.
Was that a little loud? Yeah, it must have been.
No, I'm just saying. He's significant.
Yeah, he's a significant dude. Yeah, he's a good, beautiful bastard. We're going to try to meet as many people as we can, ideally. And
make the most of our time there.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to connect with people. I really want to bring them in some way. I mean, of course, with consent. To, get some recordings, interviews, stuff like that. Just really kind of what we do now. We just chat, hang out, talk, off the cuff. And I'll try to steer the conversation away from heavy tangents. So
what would also happen?
No, you've earned the free reign.
I know. I'm all about the tangents. Unfortunately, I gotta rein it in.
Yeah. Well, you've earned it. Like everybody else hasn't. So I'll be like, I'll just bring my tangent stick and just slap them across the knuckles.
I thought you were gonna say just kind of like realign things, like focus.
Oh yeah, like a little, like one of those little, like in vaudevillian times where you have the big hook and you take them off the stage.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah, I'll step off to the side and do that.
That'd be great.
Hey, TWD Family 782.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're on the Instagram.
No, I know. I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
Oh, they're awesome.
That's great. I'm glad you guys are here. And so, with that, now that we have people listening, I'd like to open up the show with our little podcast covering episode 2 because things are getting a little complicated.
They are getting complicated. What do you think of this episode? Just off the cuff.
You know, that's a really interesting question because somebody kind of mentioned it on Instagram.
Yeah,
we're getting most of our feedback from Instagram.
Instagram is awesome.
Which is it's really interesting question though, because just off the cuff, not exactly. See, the word I use is mixed feelings.
Yeah, I agree. No, I feel similarly. Yeah, but
it's not really mixed feelings. It's you know what I mean? It's kind of like you're nervous. I'm a little nervous.
Right.
There's a little bit of nebulousness.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good term for it. I think that there's a lot of, irons in the fire. I think that there's quite a few things going on. I think we got little morsels, little nuggets of potential.
Little nugets.
Yeah, little information that I think
exactly
can build up to something or snowball into some things, which I think is interesting. And I mean, we'll get to it. But I think it's definitely an episode. I mean, I know a lot of people thought similarly. I think this is an episode that's setting up some major things that are going to be coming down the fold. So I think it was kind of giving you some tidbits of information to start putting together as we kind of march towards the direction we're going into. And then Aaron, obviously.
Absolutely. And it's like, seriously, it's like you said, because I kind of want to focus on the littler things. The bigger things are obvious. Like
the bigger things. Yeah, the action part's like, I mean, that's almost like a non-factor. Like, I mean, the Aaron part was such a huge part of it, but I found that I didn't even think about it as much afterwards. I was thinking about the other little things that happened. It was like, oh yeah, that's right, Aaron lost his arm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's kind of like, it's like something you can't miss. But right. It's the little things that get sprinkled in between things that I started noticing. I'm like, I mean, and you kind of don't notice them until the second watch, which makes me wonder if this is like a ratings ploy. Like, if they go back to watch the little things that they thought they heard, maybe we'll boost the ratings a little bit on reruns and stuff like that.
I don't know. I mean, it's effective if that's the case.
Well, not everybody podcasts.
True. Good point.
Yeah, right. But, I mean, look, I kind of want you to lead this show, and then I'll sprinkle in some of my observations, because it occurred to me that, I kind of got my notes in a little bit last minute. Again, really goddamn thorough, probably, but I want to take a little bit of a back seat and kind of just go, but excuse me, and then throw in my 2 cents.
Oh my gosh, you're well. No, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think that we can go through it. I mean, I think, God, I'm trying to think. Like for me, like the things that kind of popped out, like when I was watching it. Should we just start from the beginning and just run through it?
Yes, please.
All right.
Please proceed.
I think that yours is more detailed, so I'd rather you actually kind of like...
Oh, she's that nervous. No, because I remember you saying you were nervous about the con, so I'm like, I think there's a lot swimming around up there in that noggin. Oh, just so everybody else knows, if Carol breaks up a little bit, it's because she's on vacation.
I am actually in another country. That's my level of commitment. That's why I'm saying that it would be great if you could lead, and then I will jump in my points.
because to everybody else in the business center of her hotel, she looks crazy.
You know what's actually funny? There's actually nobody here. And I wonder if there's an echoing effect, because it really is completely and totally empty. And it kind of makes sense, because I don't know how many people go to an all-inclusive for business. You know what I mean? It's like a business center every place should have. But really, how much use does this business center get? Probably not all that much.
Not in
reality. Probably minimal.
I mean, maybe people like you who come in during the week.
But it's like I went through the lobby for my hotel room, and there's like groups of people hanging out in the lobby drinking. But I mean,
that's gonna be interesting.
I'm like, but there ain't nobody here in the business center. I mean, I say that now and watch somebody will come down in like 10 minutes, but
yeah, exactly. It's like, hi.
Like, oops.
Exactly.
Sorry. Somebody come down. Keep it down.
9. So, but that's the thing about it. What's interesting about the echo is that the echo in your house is way huger. It's just way worse.
That's so funny.
I think it's because the mic thing. Like I'm like right now, I actually, because of the conversation last week about the mic and how close you may not be. I actually,
I'm trying to be as close as possible now.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. But I actually because we have the same Yeti microphone more or less, and I took mine off its pedestal, and for the longest time I had these mic stands that I got kind of like from a friend, and I finally screwed it on, and like now I'm just using that, and it's gonna be life changing.
Really?
It is already, because my hands now can totally access a keyboard in case I need to do something, in case I need to say hello to people and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just a lot of, and then it's just right near my mouth. I'm not like bending over now to kind of get to the mic. It's just so much more freeing.
That's awesome. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I had to think about that.
Oh, hey, Eye in the Dark. Hey! I just, it's funny? You know what's funny, Eye in the Dark, too? I literally checked to see who was in the view count, and you popped up, and I said hi before you got to send me that emoji that I can't see. What emoji was that, Carol?
Which emoji?
Oh, the one in the, are you not on the Instagram anymore?
No, I'm seeing it right now. I'm just trying to see which emoji that is.
I keep saying the Facebook and the Instagram. I can't believe that I've turned into that, like...
You've become into that old person.
That over-the-hill internet user. At least, like, look, can y'all do what I can do? Can y'all stream can y'all stream three places at the same time? Yeah, old man, we use Restream.io.
See that?
Oh Lord!
We're not that far. We know what's going on.
Yeah, but I can't help saying it. I can't help saying, "Oh, hey, can you check the Instagram?"
Check on the. Is this more funny to say it like that? To say like, "Can you check on the Instagram?"
It's just really weird because I only do it when we're live or something, or like on the podcast. I'm like on the podcast. No, I'm kidding. On the podcast on the Instagram.
On the Instagram.
On the If I say the Instagrams, you have my permission to kind of just take me out. You can just take my legs out from under me right now. Oh, Lord. So freeing. So freeing.
So freeing. So funny.
Yeah, so, okay, I'll start you off. Okay, so, the first thing I noticed.
What, the conversation of Rick, like, kind of doing his... What are you thinking about this whole Rick talking?
Yes,
sort of,
okay,
like,
that's exactly
kind of storytelling. That's what you want to talk about?
Right, yes. The first, because if you think about it, the narration from the first episode,
yes,
which is really, I thought it was kind of warm, kind of cool. Instead of last time on The Walking Dead,
right,
like that nonsense. Yeah. It kind of brought it home. It kind of made it more personable. And like after all the pain that we went through in season 7 and 8, a little bit of 6. Yeah. I mean, look, there's a pain all over, but 7 and 8 was really tough to get through. I tell everybody, I'm not ashamed to tell everybody, it's rough. You're going to get through it. It's cool. It's a lot of cool stuff that's going on, but it's just rough. And so to have him narrate it, it's just kind of a nice, refreshing take on things. And now I like how they're changing up the device, though, the delivery device. And, like, instead of it being him like narrating the last time on Walking Dead or like The Walking Dead, it's him using his conversation with Negan as a narration device.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting approach. I wonder if they're doing that because it's going to tie into his departure. Like this whole thing is like him sort of kind of talking about his vision of the future before he departs, however it is that they do his departure. I don't know.
Right, and maybe this is all in hindsight too, by the way.
It could be.
Think about it.
Yeah, it could be.
And this could be like, if you think about it, this could all be like Negan's recollection, like of like Rick coming to his cell, and this is what he, and he's kind of in a way, like after Rick is quote unquote gone, Negan kind of takes over the narration, and that's what he told me, like that sort of thing,
Yeah, maybe. No, I feel like there's must be a purpose to this.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like there has to be.
Yeah, on the surface level, it's the idea that he's going,
right,
which is great. I mean, I like the idea. But I think I like what they're doing with storytelling here too. Like from having everybody around them, and finding ways to insert all the characters that we love. It's like they're using a lot of like little devices that get us kind of perk up. Oh, there's a rot with Regina. That's cool. I wonder what that's about.
Right.
That sort of thing, and like and just seeing everybody in pairs, necessarily, kind of like here and there.
Yeah, they're all kind of paired off. Yeah, there's a lot of that. You see that. Yeah.
Right. I noticed something else later on, but when we get to it, I'll tell you when I get to it. But it's the idea that like that they're it's mostly, instead of switching back necessarily from community to community, there's this idea that Rick is walking and on his way to Eugene filling him in and Rosita and all that and walking to the levees on the river and stuff like that. But he's walking around and these people are jumping in instead of us kind of cutting completely to a different location.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's that's what they did last time, and they kind of did the same thing this time. And it's just a way of kind of keeping the flow going without having to keep our eye off the ball, which was something that was definitely lacking in the last 2 seasons at least.
No, I agree completely.
So
yeah, the episode started off with that, with like Rick kind of like having this conversation about how they're building and they're growing and all of that, and how it basically like they're building this new future, kind of like the preview that they keep showing basically in the commercial. Like this was him looking out and seeing all the work that they're doing and all of that. Yeah, that was kind of like the beginning, right before the opening theme, wasn't it? I think it was like that, his kind of his narration.
Yes, it was right before.
Yeah, and then we go into the opening theme.
Yeah, pretty much, I think. I don't remember when the theme came in, to be honest.
I think that's what happened, and then I was like, all right, now we're back to,
back to the way the episode kind of goes. Until the end of the episode.
Right. And then no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, did you think that they were going to open up with Negan right away? Part of me thought they would do this cheap thing of just doing it at the end.
Yeah, I expected more of him. I think I kind of expected, but they love to tease people with this kind of stuff, because they love to tease people with the imagery of like, oh, they kept showing all the time the stairs going down, and that's Negan. But in reality, we see that those stairs that they kind of kept promoting in like the commercials and everything is actually the stairs leading down to Maggie's jail cells, where, we see that.
Is it though? Well, I guess so, yeah.
Because like we never see like Rick go into the cell to talk to Negan or to that area. We just see kind of like Rick sitting himself down in front of like what we end up obviously like seeing that it is Negan's cell.
Right.
But like the shot that they always show of like when they were kind of promoting the season, like this stairs leading down with like this light or whatever, it's actually Maggie's jail cell, because that's where we see that scene.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to that, but I did notice the similarities at the very least. I did notice. But yeah, it could be. Yeah.
So I don't know what I expected from like the Negan thing. I think I did. I guess I expected more of. Maybe I expected that to be weaved into the story a little bit more.
Right. You expected a little bit more Negan.
Yeah, that we would go in and out of these conversations. Kind of like, okay, you have this bit of conversations and we go back to what's going on. We go back to their conversation and we go back to what's going on. Just kind of as they're having their conversation, we go back to what's happening, and we kind of, maybe necessarily compare it to their conversation, especially since they're talking about like, oh, it's people's nature to come together. And Negan's sort of like, that's going to go to shit.
And gong.
Because like Rick's thought is like, oh, it's in people's nature to come together. And Negan's thought is like, it's people's nature to like bicker and like, butt heads. And like when all that crap starts to happen,
you need somebody to keep them in line.
Like, so.
But you know why they didn't do that though, right?
Why?
Because it kind of breaks the flow. The effort of them having this flow,
No, I get you.
And as much as we all want a little more Negan in our lives, if you think about it, it's clever because it holds back. Like the more you hold back, and that's the thing. It's when you can. It's like, we'll take the analogy of the levee. The levee holds back water, right? From being spilled over into the basin, right?
Yeah, no.
So,
for sure.
but it's there. Mm-hmm. It's just over that levee, right?
Yeah.
And that's Negan, man. That's seriously Negan. Yeah. And so like it's there, it's coming, there'll be more of him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So holding back is appropriate because it's kind of like, well, you can't give the audience exactly what it wants right now. Like you got to delay that gratification, and when you get it, you'll get it.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's like they're not gonna. And I think because there was so much Negan before, it's sort of like, okay, he's away for now, but he will be out. And,
yes.
This is all building towards that. So I get it. I get the technique. I understand.
And speaking of out, Eye in the Dark 2 asks, how do you think Negan gets out? And actually, that's a very interesting question because we kind of know from the comics.
I was gonna say, I don't want to give it up.
Well,
but
we made a resolution that's okay. It's okay if we do that.
Okay.
And
knowing that, and the fact is, they might go a completely different direction. Who knows?
Exactly. And that's kind of why.
Yeah. At this point, it could. Look, Carl's dead. So, and FYI, he's very much alive in the comic, so anything's possible. Right. Anyhow, so yeah, in the comic, basically Negan is, basically freed from his jail cell by a kid. Really, just a kid from the community. Really, that
Henry.
Essentially, no, not. Oh my God, can you imagine? Yeah, Henry.
Yeah.
Henry's
of all people.
Of all people, is going to be Henry. That would actually be.
Or the ghost of Gavin.
It would be very appropriate if Henry would want to do it. But, at the end of the day, it was like some kid that basically spurred Negan out of his jail cell because he was bitter and pissed at what was happening over in Alexandria. And so, to kind of be like, I'll show them and sort of like find like a new confidant or person to kind of take over. He frees Negan, which, doesn't end up working out for him. But so, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of remix that a little bit, just because the way it happens in the comic is so, I guess, I don't want to say insignificant, but it's not in any way that's very, like, I don't know. Like, I'll give you like another example, and this will all be kind of clarified on my comic corner piece.
Oh, please! I would love to
yes.
read your comic corner.
Yes.
I actually no, I can't read it. That's the deal.
Oh man, that's true.
But I love it.
So should I mention this then?
Just do it.
All right, just do it.
It's good for the goose, right? I'll just remember to forget it.
Okay, there you go. With Gregory's hanging, that is exactly how it happened in the comic. However, the steps that how we got there are different. In the comic, Gregory does conspire with a couple to basically kill Maggie, but for different reasons than what happened, because the reasons in the comic are related to Carl, and obviously Carl isn't here, so they basically reworked things to kind of get us to that point, which is fine. But in the comic, it's more poisoning Maggie, and obviously on the show you see that it's this assault, which is far more dramatic and more impactful to me personally. I think that they were right to kind of handle it the way they did on the screen, because the way it was done on the screen to somebody to face Glenn's grave or whatever, and she goes with pushing this stroller, and all of a sudden you see this figure, stroller gets pushed over and she's getting assaulted. I mean, it's far more impactful than the way it's done in the comic.
Yeah, they made quite a choice with that stroller.
Yeah, so I think like the way they chose to go about it visually made sense, and we still got to the same outcome. And I think it made the reasons for deciding to hang Gregory more compelling by doing something like that was much more visually like, whoa, as opposed to like, oh, I'm just gonna slip this in their drink. It's like, it doesn't have the same visual kind of impact, I think.
Right, or dramatic shocking impact, right.
Right, it doesn't have that same dramatic effect, that the way they chose to do it, which I'm glad they chose to do it that way. So I wouldn't be surprised when it comes to freeing Negan from the cell if it happens in some other way. Maybe somebody else, like a significant character, breaks him out. Maybe we know that there's a new group that joins,
That's right.
the show, and we've seen it, like the characters named Magna and like the other members of that group. It could very well be possible that they could potentially like break him out of the jail cell, because
like what's this guy? What is this all about? Like, why are they keeping this guy?
Why are they keeping this guy? Because that does happen in the comic, and then they kind of realize, like when Negan's talking, it's like, wait a second, this guy's full of crap. And then sort of like decide, nah, we're not gonna let you out, So, but maybe they remix it and say, this group will be the ones to like spring him, potentially, it could be.
I mean, they could really honestly do anything, but I do think they're gonna hold back on the Negan thing.
I think they will,
as much as possible.
I think they will. I think they'll be very selective of how they choose to, play their cards.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to keep a close eye on the time, too, which I have in front of me, so that we can stop the Instagram stream and redo it.
Okay.
So everybody knows. There'll be multiple parts to this to the Instagram stream, at least, just so that we can break it up and have archives.
Smart.
Yeah. Just you got to do it for the TWD family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, I in the dark too. Carol could not say enough how much that baby Hershel pushing stroller thing really freaked her out. Like we talked about it last week.
Did it freak? Oh man, that thing, like, I don't know what it is. It's the mom in me. Put some kids in there, and like all of a sudden it's like, yes, I would have hung Gregory immediately. I'm like, no, but it's just the visual, the sound of all of this happening, and like a baby on the floor crying. I mean, the whole thing was just like,
that stroller that made a sound when it fell.
Yeah, no, everything. It was, oh no, hell no, nope.
Nope.
That would not.
Right, exactly.
My estimation of Maggie grew 50% by the end of the episode. I was like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah, by default. I guess so, right? Why not?
Yeah, what can I tell you? Like, yep.
Yeah.
Gotta side with Maggie on that.
Well, on this one thing, though, with the Negan, Rick talking to Negan and everything, because by the end of not by the end, even like by the beginning, because he says something about like not having caught up in a while. What, in your estimation, is the reason that you think that Rick makes a concerted effort to kind of bring Negan up to speed?
I think that he needs validation. I think that he has doubts, and I think that things aren't going smoothly, but he needs that reassurance that like this is what it was before, and we're in a better place, which they are in a better place, very true, they are in a better place, but I feel like I feel like deep down, Rick has his doubts because of, obviously what's going on in terms of like his relationship with Daryl, even Maggie's feedback. I mean, if you look at Maggie's feedback in terms of his request for food for the saviors and all that, it's a very authoritarian, stance. She's like, well, I have my own problems here. I can't think about other people, but they lost the war, so we're letting them live.
What's there to talk about?
Isn't that enough?
Yeah.
I mean, like, she has a very, and even when she's like, okay, like, we'll do this, but they have to, provide the labor and whatever. I mean, again, how different is some of this stuff from what Negan was doing? Not completely, obviously. Negan took it to another level. But the idea is that when it comes to governing people, there are very different ways that you can. You can take a more socialist, democratic approach the way he does. I mean, I would, just saying. Then, there's Maggie that's like, I mean, again, I always go back to the same example, which is Negan murdered Abraham and Glenn and various other people, and Rick basically gave him life in prison. And Gregory attempted to murder Maggie or conspire to murder her. Let's say, conspiracy to murder in the first degree or whatever. Didn't succeed. He's hung and executed for everyone to see, as an example.
Right.
I mean, so it's a very different approach to things. And I mean, you could say, it's very hard to kind of point the finger at Negan because, what Maggie did is not all that dissimilar from what Negan would do if it had been him. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And what's good for the goose or whatever. Yeah.
Like he really would probably take a very similar approach. I mean, if you think about it from last season when Simon conspired to kill Negan, he immediately murdered all of the guys that kind of sided with Simon. They were immediately executed. And then Simon himself was like, okay, well, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. So
right, exactly. But here's the thing, and it's so great that you brought that up. And I wasn't, but then you did. It's this idea though. Negan does something that's very interesting, and it's not what Maggie does. It's not what Daryl does. Not what Carol does. Not what Rick does.
Right.
He brings the accused in front of everybody. They kind of have the words that need to be had. Like, this is what this shitbag did.
Right.
And here's what I'm gonna do instead. Instead of just executing him, we're gonna it's gonna be like this show of strength.
Right.
I'm gonna take this guy down in front of him just to show you guys what happens.
Right.
And I'm giving him a chance. If he can beat me, he deserves to be up here.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? And so in effect, what he's doing is he's kind of getting everybody on board with what he's doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing, and that's so weird. For a bad... Well, it's not weird because a person... It really does show his intentions. Like, at the end of the day and at his core, his whole thing is about saving people. I don't think it's all about being malicious. I don't think he does it for its own sake necessarily. No, I think it does morph eventually. Yeah. But I think it comes from a place of like keeping everybody together. If like this sense of this weird mangled sense of fairness, but that in any case, because of doing that, it does keep people in line, which is the ultimate goal. It's just, I'm a teacher, or was he a teacher? He was a teacher, right?
He was a teacher, yeah.
Yeah. So that was his way of keeping people aligned, is just figuring out a way to get people's attention. And that's what it is. It's all about that. And you can tell that's something he learned as a teacher. I need to grab their attention so I can teach my lesson. With my co-teacher Lucille. God. So the whole talking with him is really more just Rick is just validating himself. He's basically talking it out. He's like using him as a therapist, I think so. Yeah. Like a soundboard, as they say. I agree. Okay. I thought maybe that there was maybe even something more going on. I didn't really know what, but I thought it might be a good idea to ask. Yeah, that's my interpretation of things. That's what I think. I think that's what most people say too, and I think some of the people in the background have said as much. Like, I don't know if it was Andy Lincoln or Jeffrey Dean Morgan, but they've said something to that effect. Like, that's what he does. He's just trying to validate, in spite of all the bad stuff. Right. So the main thing about this episode is obviously the bridge. It's called the bridge, and it centers around the bridge. It all revolves around this bridge. Yeah, which represents a lot. Literally, I was going to say literally, figuratively, metaphorically, however you want to call it. It's all about this quote-unquote bridge. Weird how that works. Yeah. And it works in like so many multiple facets. Like obviously the interpersonal community dynamics, but even like things like Jesus finally speaking up. Yeah. He builds a bridge with Maggie, like a discourse. because before it was kind of like he was afraid. You know, obviously he trusts Maggie, but he doesn't trust her enough to feel like she is not going to bite his head off or something, or make her feel like he's conspiring against her. Like, he doesn't know, and so he doesn't even take a chance. But he trusts her. I think they trust each other. Same thing with Anne and Father Gabriel, or Jadis, if people prefer, right? And
so weird. I'm still getting used to Anne. I always have to say Anne/Jadis.
I feel like we still have to qualify that because, and specifically because of what we may see going down the line, and because there may be, you never know with the series. People have a tendency. I mean, Fear does this too. Like, people have a tendency to kind of fall back to old habits. So you never know, right? But. There's that. There's even like small scenes like Rosita and Iraq just having that short conversation as they blow up. Now, what were they trying to blow up back there?
It was, I think, my understanding is that there was a rock
slide.
That needed to be cleared out.
Right, as a result of the hurricane from Fear the Walking Dead. Which is it's probably true, though.
It very well could be. I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned it in like the last podcast. But you know what? I mean, it could be. I don't know. That's so bizarre.
Aren't you glad you have me around?
No, I mean, I did not think about that. It was like mind blown. Like
I felt like I crashed your computer when I said that.
Yeah,
I thought I either crashed your computer or you were just like, I don't know what you're saying. I was
stunned.
Right now.
No, I was stunned. I was like, wait. Like my mind had to like compute it all. I was like, wait. Oh well. Yeah.
I don't know if the time. Okay, upon thinking about it, because I've heard it over and over again in my head, I don't know if the time exactly matches up. Obviously, now the time does not match up at all because it's 35 days later from the last episode. By the way, so you know, it could have been that the storm was 6 months prior, let's say. Let's just say that. And that's where we are or something. Or maybe even a year. Let's say a year. And they still haven't recovered. And then finally the bridge gave out. That's fine. It's close enough, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. Basically, they're dealing with elements that they have to contend with. They're dealing with environmental challenges. The bridge needs to be amended, and this rock slide that needed to be cleared out. So we see them basically tackle those things this episode. Mostly, obviously, the bridge. Obviously,
yeah.
The main point. So it was really interesting to me, this conversation on the bridge with Aaron kind of like chatting, with Daryl about changing, I'm guessing Gracie.
Yes.
It must
because
be Gracie.
We asked. We were like, what's up with baby Gracie? And
I was like, there's your answer. I was
right
like,
from the jump, man.
There we go. Gracie accounted for. Check.
Thank goodness, to be honest.
I know.
Because I was a little nervous. I mean,
I was like, wait a second. Is that Judith or is that Gracie?
Yeah.
That was my concern. Like, I totally thought it was Judith when I watched like the last episode, and then there was that little part of me that was like, what if that's not?
Is it weird that I have this weird baby fever? Like, I kind of want to see baby Gracie. Oh God.
No, I mean, I think it's I thought it was like a funny conversation about like the explosive diaper, because I'm like, well, look, I know all about blowouts, so I was like, well. And then
blowouts on the back.
Yeah, that's what they're called, blowouts. Oh, they're not great.
Spoiler alert, they travel upward usually.
They do.
Up the back. It's the grossest thing.
It's the grossest thing, and I don't even know how that happens. Like, I don't understand.
It's simple physics.
Like, I don't understand how that happens. Like, every time, like, one of my kids had that, I was like, how in the world did it get this far up? I don't understand.
I could tell you the laws of fluid dynamics, but it won't make it any better.
It's not going to make it any better. But we're past those days. My kids are past those days.
You think they are? No, I'm kidding.
God, they better be.
That would be a tragedy.
That would be a tragedy.
Don't be ashamed. It happens, I suppose. But
no, I'm sure things happen. But by and large, those days were tough.
those were kind of dark days, or like maybe off brown.
Oh God! But Aaron tells Daryl that he'll be a great dad.
Yes,
it was really funny. I was like, "Whoa, what?"
I thought I said something about that either on the show or on Instagram, like the idea that Daryl would be a good dad. Oh, okay. Somebody had said something about, if they get rid of Rick, who takes care of baby Gracie? And I'm like, obviously Michonne, but if you think about it, why not Daryl? Everybody was saying somebody else or this person or that person. I was like, Daryl, why?
Well,
little ass kicker.
I have a little ass kicker. Oh.
Yeah,
I have a little theory that comment was said, and I'm wondering if it has... Okay, so here's my thought process on that comment.
That's what it's all about, baby.
And I don't know if there's any legs to it, but I'm just saying. So in the comic book, Rosita ends up pregnant. Rosita ends up pregnant by Eugene, because in the comic, Eugene is a very different kind of character than he is on the show.
Right.
Like, Eugene in the comic is very different than Eugene on the show.
Less weird, more smart, nerdy?
Yeah, he's like smart. He's not some like Rick Grimes kind of guy, but he's definitely not like a nerd. He's like a normal guy, really. You know,
he's not like the smart Eugene. He's like this guy.
He's smart. He is a smart guy, but he's not like weird. You know, he's just a smart kind of like I don't know, a guy maybe who was like maybe potentially like in the sciences before, maybe like an engineer or something like that, but he wasn't he wasn't some weirdo. Like, it wasn't like that. He wasn't
some weirdo.
Well, you know, I mean,
yeah.
you know, like
I know what you're saying.
He was like a normal guy, whatever, who had a lot of guts, who was very kind of brave, and would even kind of talk back to Negan in the comic, which clearly, you know, Eugene never did that. You know, his obviously he went against Negan in terms of like the bullet manufacturing, you know, basically, being faulty and all of that, but that was, you know, kind of like a form of what do you call it? What is it? Passive resistance or which he kind of. It was that was more his way of kind of like protesting, as opposed to like in the comic where Eugene was more vocal about his kind of like, you know, I'm not gonna help your cause sort of thing.
Right, and you can see how this Eugene in the television series kind of works better as a device. It
works better, yeah. It works better because, I mean, you already have a lot of characters that are kind of like the Eugene in the comic. You know what I mean? So
they jump from the page, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So
because they have to, right?
Yeah,
let's face it.
Right. So, but anyway, in the comic, you know, because this Eugene is a different kind of Eugene, he's the one who ends up impregnating Rosita. And obviously in the show, I highly doubt that would happen, but could be Daryl and Rosita.
It could be. I love that you brought this up, because I meant to write it in my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good dovetail from even the first comment, but now that you brought that up, I was thinking, there's a theory going around.
Okay.
And it's been gnawing at me, because there's a part of me that wants to say no.
Okay.
But then there's a part of me that wants to say hell yes, and it's that Daryl being gay.
There are a lot of people that have that theory, but I don't know. I mean,
there's not enough evidence to support that he's straight, I think.
The thing is, I mean, he has been basically asexual. Like, they have had him as essentially like an asexual character. Like,
oh my God.
You know, I mean, and so
I just had a thought about that, but go ahead. Yeah.
He's been sort of just kind of like ambivalent, like not one or the other. I mean, especially because in reality, everybody on this show has been coupled in some sort of way. I mean, everybody's had some sort of romantic interest on the show.
Right.
I mean, down to freaking Father Gabriel as of like Sunday night.
That's like a good joke, because it's like, oh, even Father Gabriel, really? What the heck? And then he'll say in the background, I'm Episcopalian.
Even Father Gabriel's getting some. You know what I mean? Like,
and
Daryl, nothing.
Yeah. But which kind of feeds the theory, you know? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. You just talking that out made me think of something huge. We keep thinking, that, and assuming that Aaron's going to end up with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
What if Daryl ends up with Jesus? No, that would be something. But what if Daryl ends up with Aaron?
I mean,
it's something I would not see coming, but like when you were talking about it, I'm like, holy crap, the way he was grabbing Aaron in the episode, the way he's always been around Aaron.
Right.
You know, like from the beginning, I'm glad they were kind of reviving that friendship, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Think about it. That makes way more sense than Jesus now.
It does.
Now that you really think about it. And nobody would see it coming. Remember this conversations that we would have about saying F you to the comics people?
Yeah.
This is perfect. They're going to get so mad, and I'll get so... Their tears will feed my soul. It's just so great.
Oh my God. It could happen. I think that they're kind of like putting it out there, either options, so that we're kind of like not sure what direction it could potentially go in. Like, do you think
people would see that coming though? Because I don't think people can see Aaron as much though. I mean, I guess if you're only a TV watcher.
I think people would be shocked if anything happened with Daryl. I mean, like, just saying, I think people would be shocked if anything. Like, people would be like, it could be Rosita, it could be, you know, Aaron, it could be Jesus. It doesn't even matter who it would be. The people would be like, whoa, I mean, it's been like almost 10 years, you know, like, we haven't seen the man with anybody. I
would cry. I mean, if it was Aaron, I would just like flat out, I'd this huge smile on my face. I'd probably cry and all that stuff. And I'd be like, It's just so beautiful. It's like it would probably be the biggest mainstream.
People would be floored. I mean, people would definitely be floored. I mean, if you wanted to get people talking, that would be it. But I think that they know that there's one easy route that they can take because it is straight from the comic books, or they could go that route because, you do see, Jesus and Aaron kind of talking in like the first episode, like the last, not the episode 2, but episode 1, where they're, fighting walkers or whatever. And he's like, oh, I'm having a class at the Hilltop, Maggie's going to be there, you should come or whatever. So they start putting that seed there. Although if I think, but you know what though? I mean, they can still do the Daryl thing because if I think about it.
Well, that's kind of why I was saying it too. Because like, obviously they're setting up Jesus and Aaron.
Because if I think about it, there is a sort of kind of love triangle, I think, that does happen in the comic, but I don't remember who the other player was. I know it was like Jesus and Aaron, but I feel like there was somebody. It might have been honestly. Aaron's man before he was killed. It might have been him. It just might have that might have been the case.
So like an earlier on thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but I don't know. I mean, look, they could go there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's something to think about. And if you guys have opinions, let us know. I mean, I know there's a lot of Daryl fans, which is like the oddest thing too, because it's in. I know we've mentioned it on the past. It's like Daryl is the biggest hyped up non-comics character that's just A, survived, but B is this huge favorite.
He's a huge fan favorite, huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind Daryl at all. I mean, I just think that my thing with Daryl is that I feel like he's been grossly underused in the sense that, but at the same time, I get it. When you try to stick with the comic, then that doesn't leave him with too much to do, because if you're focusing so much on like comic material, then you're focused on the comic-based characters, and he's not a comic-based character. So then where does that leave him?
Right.
But he is a fan favorite. He's a huge character. He's been Rick's like brother, right hand for how many seasons, and he's had some really good material. Well, and he's had some really good material on this show. So I've always been like, come on, man, give the guy more stuff, And so I'm glad that, like, I mean, we see just from episode 1, it's like the man spoke more in one episode than he has in the last 2 seasons. And everybody commented on it. Yeah. Everybody noticed that. They were like, whoa, Daryl's talking.
Yeah, and I think they even brought it up on Talking Dead.
They did bring it up. Yeah. It's like, I mean, everybody noticed. It's
Daryl
like,
speaks. That we all said that at the same time. Yeah, that's what I said.
Everybody said it. I was like, thank God. Okay.
Yeah. So as Rick is panning around, the one thing I noticed was that, like, you see scenes with, Rosita signing in and out the weapons, like in Alexandria. There's like Jerry and who's the woman that plays Nadine? Who's the woman, the character that's played by Nadine Marissa, the Muslim character that she kisses?
Oh,
I don't remember her name exactly, but you see him coming out of the tent with her, and they're having this like normal life kiss sort of thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cute, right?
Yeah, it was very sweet.
Yeah,
like, good for them.
Everybody's getting some.
See, again, that's Daryl. Just saying.
Well, I also saw something else from that, and it was the signs, though. If you look at the signs. The one that goes to Toledo is going one way, and as you're walking with Rick towards the bridge, there's one sign that says the future.
Yes, I did see that, yeah.
And it just occurred to me was, okay, Bugs Bunny had this one thing, like, I should have taken a ride at Albuquerque.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
And I know in somewhat fashion, I don't know the exact lines, like something about Toledo. It's like, and like Toledo could be hell, and the future could be like...
Somebody said that the Toledo reference was in reference to MASH.
Oh, well, there you go. That's
what somebody said. I don't know how accurate that is because I wasn't a huge MASH watcher.
No, every time it came on, you just like flip off because it's late at night for like when the reruns started happening.
It was always late at night, yeah.
Oh, but yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that's what I was told.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That makes sense. Makes complete sense. I'm wrong.
Makes total sense.
Well, and also the tents and MASH and and then also like the doctor, Enid doing what she did later on. Yeah.
I know that whole scene looked very much like something from MASH, the tents and everything. It's actually a funny thing that just randomly came up because it did look very similar.
Like the way Aaron was shot lying down, stuff like that.
Yeah, all of that was just looked very much. Or even when Daryl and Carol were talking in the tent with Rick and all of that. I mean, it had that kind of feel,
Yeah.
Like very kind of like, I know the war's over, but almost kind of like if they were, and if you're, the boots on the ground or whatever. It just had that kind of feel.
Right. Oh, okay. Henry, Carol, and Zeke.
Oh, that was cute. That was a cute scene. That was very cute.
Yeah. I mean, how cute was that?
That was a very adorable one, especially when he's like, oh, pretty soon he'll be over in college. I was like, oh.
But even the thing with the kid, like, aren't you forgetting something? Like a mom would say.
I know what the kid. I thought that was. We haven't seen that side of Carol in so long, if ever.
The Susie Homemaker thing. But like the fact that it was like the fact that it was the stick though. She's like,
I know.
It's like, okay, I don't want your love, but here's your stick.
But she's not like denying it either, though. She takes it.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like there's an affection there.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny how I don't know if it's a change, but like, okay, she was a mother, you know, and how. Is she so far removed from that motherly role that like this sort of thing is kind of alien to her? Like with the thing with Henry, like really not expecting the kiss on the cheek. You know what I mean? Like,
question.
Like think of like being introduced to her at first, you know, first season, and then like now it's just so night and day.
Yeah, it is night and day. I mean, I think that she's reclaiming a little bit of her old self while still maintaining this shroud of protectiveness and defense that she always has.
Right. Which we're kind of
still
seeing wear away in this episode.
It's still there. You know,
of course.
It's still there, deep down inside.
Yeah, and Ezekiel, I think, actually ends up recognizing this too, because he's basically telling her, like, I'm gonna slow down to your speed. Like, I know what this is about. I think Zeke is probably the most grounded of them all. Actually, out of everybody in the series, because I think for two reasons. But I mean, obviously he's smart. He's slowing down to Carol's speed. But there's also that moment in All Out War where he was confident and everything was going his way, and then all of a sudden he lost all of his fighters. You know what I mean? That kind of like, so he's knowing he just does not want to take things for granted. You know what I mean? And you know what? So to kind of take her love as it is right now for granted would mean, like, you know, what am I doing this for? You know, what? It's all about the small moments. It's about taking it in, you know?
Yeah.
Because it could all go away. So it's just really interesting the way that if you take that into account,
right?
You know, in that scene, and it makes sense that he would slow down. You could easily see the show kind of take it to a place. You know, like, this is going to be a thing. He's going to keep asking her, and they're going to break up. But I don't think that's going to be his fault because of what everybody says is going to happen.
Right.
Because it happened in the comics. Which is which is looming over our shoulder, our heads, you know, like the back of our minds is like, okay.
Well, yeah, I know, like all this romantic stuff. Like when I'm watching it with like Ezekiel and Carol, I'm like, well, this isn't gonna end well, but okay.
Like, I mean, and maybe that's by design. Maybe there's a there's a part of it. Basically, there's no way that nobody doesn't know that that's going to happen. And so everybody, comics watchers, TV watchers alike, they're probably looking at the screen going, oh, poor Carol. This is, you know, her heart's going to keep thawing and thawing and thawing. And then that thing is going to happen. And then what's going to happen to her? What is going to be the end result? And part of me thinks that, you know, among the people that we're going to lose, and maybe not immediately, further down the line, is one of them in this season is going to be Carol. That's what I think. I
don't know,
because doesn't she die?
She dies pretty early on in the comic.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's not around. But for some reason, I don't think they'll do it. I think that for me, like, they'll probably keep her around because she is kind of like Daryl, such a huge fan favorite. And with all the change happening on the show, I think
Glenn was probably the best fan favorite.
I know,
had to think about it.
But I think that they really wanted to stick to dogma of the comic. I think that they really wanted to kind of like stick to what happened in order to vilify Negan to like such an extent that like your fan favorite character was killed at the mercy of this guy.
Well, yeah, it was already too heavy.
Yeah, it was so like there was so much writing on it, and it was so like such a huge part of the comic that I think that they were sort of like, nope, we have to
put her in jail.
You know, this moment has to happen or whatever. And I think Ezekiel's not making it. I don't think Ezekiel's making it past this season.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. I mean, they could do a fake out. I don't know. I
think that he's being killed off in spectacular fashion based on the comic, based on the fact that we know the Whisperers are coming. I think he's going to be one of the casualties.
And you know what? We'll get to all of that because I do want to hold back on the Whispers because I think there
might be a tidbit of that in this episode,
right? Because it does go back to what I was saying in the last episode about the bridge. It's like, well, two herds walking and meeting with each other. Usually the herds kind of just pick each other up along the way, not meet each other. That's not how they usually work. Right. So we'll table that. So Carol didn't want the kiss. Ezekiel's slowing down to Carol's speed. Hell no. Hell no. Yes. Okay. One thing that so there's an observation that we made about Eugene and how he did not belong in Alexandria, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason being is because while he was around, he was heavily underutilized. And what do we see in this episode?
He's utilized.
Incredibly utilized.
Yeah.
Even relied upon by Rick.
Yeah, he was they were, walking hand in hand, and Rick and Rick hanging on to his every word, So I'm glad to see that, they are using people to their full potential, as they should. Yeah,
exactly. It's the hugest critique that we had about, in my estimation, that the hugest critique that we had was well, not really a critique. Okay, the reason why Eugene fled to the Saviors was because of Rick, essentially. Most of it was not his choice, but he embraced it because of Rick and being underutilized. And now that he's being heavily utilized, it's kind of like, oh, this is great. It's like not only is he on, they're all getting along, but he's being utilized where he wasn't before. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I think they made it. Between the two episodes, they made it a really good point that he's being utilized. I think people recognized, or at least the writers got together and said, yeah, this is what we were waiting for. We were waiting for a moment where we can get Eugene back in the fold and, Rick not taking him for granted. That sort of thing.
Right, yeah.
So I thought that was a good thing and part of that utilization was him taking into structural account the levees that are going to break the temporary levees that are going to break in 6 days, that they need to kind of, shore up. So it's why they need to do the blasting now, because if they don't do the blasting now and lead the horde away so they can do it now, they won't be able to actually get it done, and they'll do double time, but whatever,
Right.
They have to get the herds away from the levee shoring up. So, and that's kind of the reason why there's this sequence of events where things start to go wrong and et cetera, because there's a lot of moving parts. Clearly, there's a herd coming. They do the blasting to clear the roadside, and then it has a double effect of leading them away from the river.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the herd in question is called Horatio. I wished I took the time, because I know this is a Shakespeare reference, but I wished I took the time to look up the significance of what Horatio is and maybe the foreshadowing and using that name particularly. Do you know what I mean? Like I did with the crows last week? So I wonder.
I'm gonna look that up. Horatio.
Yeah.
I know. I know that they mentioned it on the show, but I it was the same. I didn't get a chance to look up Horatio. Why Horatio?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's usually what I do. But I was pressed for time. I was very nervous.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was this one scene I kind of want to talk about. I know we're going really slowly. By the way, we're barely making any headway. But Eugene gives this person the side eye while they're spooling this thing. They're spooling this thread, and Eugene's just kind of like giving them the side eye kind of thing. What are you doing? Did you notice that little moment while while Rick was trying to talk with Rosita? I think it was. I'm trying to figure out what that was all about.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I might have noticed, but I didn't get a chance to think about it too much. I'm not sure what it could potentially mean.
I just worth putting a pin in. I don't know. It was just a weird scene. Things aren't shot without purpose. It's not like a B-roll thing, but I don't know. Yes, okay, and one more thing to note about that, as far as what I have in notes, is if you look at when Rick starts to talk to Negan, it's 35 days after, so that means that Carol has been managing the Saviors for about a month, officially.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
good
so
point.
It's a good thing to keep in mind as we start to see things unfold.
Interesting.
More particularly the next episode
has passed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Enid and Sadiq,
yes. So we end up seeing that basically Enid is Sadiq's protege.
On MASH.
Yeah, again, very MASH, very much so. I thought it was an interesting callback, though, how they were saying, and very realistic, how Rick was basically kind of directing Sadiq back to, what was he directing back to? Was it Hilltop that he was saying that there was an outbreak?
Alexandria.
It was Alexandria.
Yeah.
There was an outbreak. Man, I was like, that's so interesting, because this shit happens, and it has, it happened at the prison. We remember what that was like,
Yeah, it happened at Hilltop, technically. Ugh.
Oh,
that was gross.
Yeah, right.
Poor Tobin.
Tobin. Oh. But so I kind of appreciated that comment there. I was like, oh yeah, don't forget what happened at the prison. So
yeah, did somebody say that though? I don't. Well, he just said that there was a bug.
He said that there was a bug going around, and immediately I was like, oh god.
Which there's a lot to say about that. Which not a lot, but it's a lot to say that okay, by now, between Gabriel, between Hilltop, between, you take these things seriously, between the prison. Yeah. I mean, you can't afford not to take these things seriously.
No.
Get your best doctor on this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good point. It's a very good point, actually. Because, if you look at Rick's comment, you kind of be like, really? This chick's effectively a field nurse. She's not a doctor. And there's so many people working, and then possibly that could get hurt. Like, wouldn't you want your best doctor to sew people up and give them splints and stuff like that?
Definitely.
Because Sadiq almost looks kind of like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, all right, you need me there? Or, I mean, yeah, because, I mean, basically it's like if Rick is like, go here, I mean, whether he agrees with it or not, like, he's kind of has to kind of do it,
When I say jump, you say how high.
Yeah, essentially. That's essentially it. Oof. Yeah.
Ricky Dicky Grimes. By the way, it's worth mentioning right now, and this is totally not The Walking Dead. It's more Squawking Dead related. We're doing it. We're still on the air. Yay. That's incredible. We're still on Instagram. That's incredible. And we have one archive. We have one archive in the can. It's worth remarking. Okay, moving along. Okay, so now that brings us to more, Rick and Eugene mentioning that the bridge camp is even running out of food. It's not only just the sanctuary, it's they're just, I don't know if he mentions it here. No, he mentions it down the line. So they're running out of food. Sucks. And that brings us to that whole Michonne and Maggie scene, which, I mean, I think you should kind of go through, because I kind of did it last week, but you know what I'm talking about.
Michonne and Maggie scene discussion.
Yeah, that whole negotiation thing that kind of doesn't go right.
Yeah. I mean, Maggie's basically kind of taming a horse when Michonne shows up, and
so let's talk about that. What do you think about that? Because that was pretty.
I think that was kind of a metaphor, to be honest. I mean,
breaking in a horse, or is it called breaking in?
Yeah,
no, it's called breaking a horse. Yeah.
Is it breaking a horse specifically? That's what it's called.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be caught saying breaking in a horse, because that could mean something else.
That could be bad. Yeah. True.
Don't want to mess with livestock.
No. But basically, I mean,
like a wild horse,
Yeah, Michonne shows up, and essentially Maggie's, taming or breaking a wild horse. And, I mean, you can interpret that to mean many things based on the circumstances as they are,
If you had to pick one of those things that kind of just jumps out at you, what would you choose? Like, what would you think?
I mean, just the fact that she chose to execute Gregory and redeem the blacksmith, or jail him and think that he is redeemable. So here she is basically with this horse and taming this horse, because even though it is a quote unquote wild horse, she feels that this horse can be tamed and be a useful member to them.
Damn, I wouldn't have thought of that, honestly.
Really?
But that's cool though, because I like getting these different takes, because I'm kind of agreeing with you. Like more.
Like that for me, that's how I interpreted it. I was like, because you're doing the same thing with Earl. That's his name, I think. Earl.
Oh yeah.
You basically jailed him, because at the end of the day, it's like, this guy is your blacksmith. He builds a lot of the tools that you use in your circumstances in order to basically farm and produce the agriculture that you have. So he is a useful member of your society. He's very useful.
Right.
Gregory, not so much. I mean, let's be honest here. He's not.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, that's part of it too. It's like, are they redeemable? Like, potentially. And then we come to find out that she really tries to understand more about Earl's circumstances, and knowing what she knows about her own life in terms of her father, Hershel and all of that. It kind of helps inform her even further to know, like, this is a guy who can be a redeemable member of society.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely get to that one too, because there's two parts to even that, but
But basically, an interesting tidbit from that conversation with Michonne and Maggie is that Maggie's been waiting for her ethanol, which apparently never arrived.
Well, but I wanted to mention one thing about the horse, though, or two things, rather. One is my first thought after you mentioning that was like, okay, wait, what if Maggie's the horse and she's just taming herself?
That's deep.
Right? now, the one thing I actually did want to bring up that was, it is the horse scene gives you a sense of stepping back. Because if you think about it, when we look at season 2, I think it's season 2 when we meet her, right? On Hershel's farm?
Yes, season 2 was the farm season.
Right, she's on horses. That's what they do also. She's riding around with Glenn on horses. So it's what we knew of her. Like, they did this on the farm, you know? So it brings back a little that season 2 vibe, some of that familiarity. It kind of gives you a 50,000-foot view of Maggie. Like, it's so easy as we go through any series to kind of forget who these people were originally. Because, I mean, as you go, like, 9 seasons in, you're like, okay, these people grow and change, and the actors make certain choices about the person's character that sometimes feels like they're not like the character that they were when we first started out. And so to add that scene with her breaking the horse, it kind of lets you take a humongous step back and see Maggie for all the parts that she's ever, like all the pieces of her that she's ever portrayed throughout the series, and kind of gives you like this bird's eye view of her as a character on the whole. Do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of why you see a lot of these people who say, oh, you know, this gives me season 1 vibes, this gives me, you know, early season vibes, because they're making a deliberate attempt to kind of step into their perceived roles from the start of the series, like how people saw them from the beginning, and then adding all the other stuff that came after, you know, as well. So obviously Maggie is still the way she is by the time she talks to Michonne, but like it gives you the opportunity to take a step back and remember the Maggie from before, you know, that sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, that's all. I mean, that's mostly what I thought. And obviously the horse being her, like her tamping down her emotions just for... Because the whole purpose is not to punish the horse. The whole purpose is to kind of get it to comply so that they can have this cooperation sort of thing. So yeah. So that could be her, like cooperating with the better half of her, you know? Anyway, yeah, so there you go.
There you go.
My little rant. But yes, the negotiation continues.
The negotiation continues.
Right. So you were going to get into Michonne and Maggie's negotiation.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it was so much of a negotiation, but basically like Michonne trying to kind of appeal to her better self, her better sense of self, and basically telling her that, look, you know, they had the ethanol and, you know, the group was sending it to you. Like, I mean, it's just kind of, you know, disappeared, you know, like it's this fuel never, you know, arrived, which is, we keep, and we'll get to it, but we keep hearing about these groups that just somehow just disappear. Like they've just disappeared.
Like if you don't stop to question it and say
red flag.
Right.
Red flag.
You could just move past it and not even think about it. But we know better.
We know that this is kind of a big deal.
Right.
So basically this ethanol never arrives.
So to be clear, you're on board with what I was saying from the first episode. Like, it's already starting to happen.
It's already starting to happen.
Yeah.
So it's, oof. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm like, oh my gosh. But,
you know what? Okay, we'll get to it, but that's fine.
No,
I don't want to say it right.
What? We want to like jump into it now?
No, because it's right at the end of the episode.
I know it's at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So we're gonna come to it anyhow.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, basically, Michonne basically tries to appeal to her better judgment, and they kind of get into this conversation about Earl and what's going on, and when are you letting him go, and all of that sort of thing. And Maggie doesn't really have an answer for any of that. You know, right. She can tell, like, look, he tried to kill me. He needs to be jailed. As to what happens next and when he gets out, Maggie can't give her any sort of answer about that. But she says that she can stay. She's free to stay. You know, obviously it would be a considerable distance to go back to Alexandria or whatever.
Right. You are getting a sense of how far apart these communities are.
Yeah, it's kind of
in the process.
Said that, like, because when I thought about it, I was like, well, man, I mean, if you're on horseback, it's like, oof, you know.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, not only that. I think. Did you ever get the sense that maybe, yes, it felt like these communities were far apart, right? But at the same time, I think season 7 and 8 didn't really give you the sense of distance. Like,
they didn't. Yeah, we didn't get a really big understanding about it.
Like, you saw roads and stuff like that, but when people say things like, "Oh, you're free to stay the night," like implying almost like, "Yeah, I know how far away it is."
Yeah.
You know, it's not this magic thing where you just drive and you're suddenly there. You know, like, oh, I got there in 10 minutes or 30 minutes or however long it is. You know, so just, you know, and these observations like these are going to come up in some of the things that I saw, like a sense of space, a sense of time. There's a concerted effort to kind of give you, and a concerted effort to somebody who's not looking for it, because that's the beauty of it. Like, think comments like that, the way things are shot, they give you a sense of space, and they give you a sense of like space in terms of distance between communities that you can't even feel, but you start to appreciate. Like these, and then
I agree.
With the bridge as a premise to begin with, like, think about it. This one bridge, you know, connects all of them together.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And like, you'd think like, okay, really? Come on. But it's huge. Like, they can't do anything without it.
They can't. I mean,
not easily anway.
Especially in this day and age where it's like they're so limited in terms of resources and what have you. It's I mean, it's it's considerable.
Oh yeah, and also with the bridge out, that's what makes that distance so hard to breach. You know what I mean? So that's another brick in the bag. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a good thing you brought that up. Yeah. So one thing you notice in that conversation that you may not have noticed in the first watch is that, like, you notice how much of a first mate Jesus is to Maggie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how much they lean and trust on each other. And they may not lean on each other as much as they could be. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But obviously, like, she's very open with him. He's very open. He's not as open with her, maybe because of the Gregory thing. Mm-hmm. But there's obviously a trust going on. Like, she's open. She talks to him. She speaks freely. Mm-hmm. If she didn't trust him, she would keep her feelings to the vest. Just kind of like what she did when that whole thing went down with pissing Dean. Do you remember?
Yes.
Like how she kept everything inside. She kept everything inside all the way until the end of the season. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew what was going on, not even the audience.
Right.
And I think as a matter of course, and maybe as a result of that last conversation that the three of them had, Daryl and Jesus and Maggie.
Right.
There is maybe a sense of trust there that's going on.
Yeah, I think so. I did see that.
Yeah. So, but yes, the power play, and then Michonne loses it. She loses the negotiation. Yep. Maggie sticks to her guns, right? So,
yep, definitely.
But it does give Michonne the opportunity to kind of, hijack Maggie's brain, and then it kind of implants the idea of, oh, you don't know what to do with him, huh? I wonder if there was like a thing of rules, maybe you could figure that out. Like you could naturally agree upon like some sort of rule book that's beyond you, maybe a council. I didn't say council, did I?
Maybe some like, actual laws and stuff.
Yeah, maybe so it's not on you. And I think it's probably the big part of Maggie's problem is like she wants to be able to do something about Earl, but it's kind of like, what do I do? There's a part of me that's like, he did this to me and baby Hershel.
Right.
But then again, and it's kind of like what she says when they're discussing what to do about him. He's like, I didn't think he would do it the first time. Like, so I really don't know what to do with him.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's like she was not prepared for this sort of situation.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, end of story. Maggie prioritizes the Hilltop, and that's not a surprise because,
she just sticks with her guns. That's what she's been consistently saying.
Yeah, and with whatever Gregory said as his final words, with Tammy and Earl as respected members of the community, and already disagreeing with Rick, but feeling like she has to go along with it. Mm-hmm. She has to double down. I think she's really prioritizing Hilltop in the manner of like not only their needs first, but also like showing them that she's really on their side. I think that was the big effect really of having to do with Gregory is now just proving that he's wrong. Yeah. I have to kind of show these people no matter what that I'm in their corner. If that means saying no to you when it comes to the plow as just a political move, I'm going to do that.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so bridge drama, and that's kind of where we get to the baby Gracie conversation, and Daryl is a dad. But the Justin and Henry incident.
Yeah. I mean, Henry's just going around trying to basically hydrate everyone. That's basically it. He's going around just trying to keep everybody hydrated with this cooler that he's dispensing. Like, everybody gets one drink, it seems. Again, here we are with the socialist kind of, way of doing it. I mean,
the workers control the means of production.
My God. So bad. Yeah. But no, I mean, so basically he's like going around, everybody gets their cup of like water, and is it Justin? Is his name Justin?
Yes, his name's Justin. Yeah.
Justin. Okay. Who's been in many things, actually.
Oh, yeah. Zach McGowan. Yeah.
He's one of those guys that it's like you see him and you're like, wait, where have I seen you
somewhere before?
Exactly. It's like I've seen you in many things. So basically, he kind of, isn't satisfied with one cup, and basically takes the cooler upon himself to like actually, what is it? He puts it over his head, doesn't he? And like kind of just drinks.
Tries to get the last few drops, yeah.
Yeah, which Henry doesn't kind of appreciate, because while Henry tried to kind of like say, hey, no, like everybody, it needs to last for everybody. Yeah. He's sort of like whatever, kind of pushes him aside, does his thing, or whatever, and Henry. Well, takes that stick of his and,
the Morgan stick.
Yeah, and hits him where it hurts the most.
Well, no, he didn't hit him there. Well, where do you think it hurts the most? The knee? Like the back of the knees?
No, didn't he put it in between his legs?
Oh, he did, but like not there. No. He used his own leverage against him. He kind of wedged it between his legs and kind of,
is that what he did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
Still hurts, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's like he just used his weight against him and tripped him. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all. I think my computer froze, by the way. Yeah. We'll see in a second, but Yeah. Anywho. Oh, wait, maybe. I don't know. Okay, doesn't matter. We're gonna... Oh, there's something going on. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, good. I mean, look, it's good to have a partner.
Hey.
You know, the worst part about it is that my phone is about to die.
Oh, no.
My God, 3% battery. This is pathetic.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
But,
It's the worst.
yeah, I mean, you might have to lead this conversation because I don't know if I have anything I can do about that. But
What about the phone charging?
I could probably reach into my bag and get the charger, but we'll see. But yes, the bridge drama. So, yeah, I mean, this whole thing starts this, kind of rivalry.
Well, the rivalry is already there. This basically was just kind of like the spark to just ignite it, essentially. That's how I feel. I feel like the tensions are already rumbling. The resentment is already there, and this was just sort of like the thing to kind of like set it off, essentially. And that's basically what happened. And it becomes like I don't know who was it who basically told Justin, it's like, hey, don't feel embarrassed about that or whatever. And
we find out his name in the sneak peek, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's not even the sneak peek; it's the AMC sneak peek.
Oh, okay.
I will tell you his name now.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Mud.
Mud. That's my name is Mud.
They call him Mud. I guess the Saviors. So I thought you might have known that guy's name from the comic. I thought that might have had significance to it.
No, not to my recollection.
Yeah. Well, in the sneak peek, he refers to Maggie as. So your name is the widow, referring to Simon's term, and he goes, "My name is Mud." So like I'm assuming they're both using nicknames, but you never know, you never know with parents, right?
Here's a side note in terms of sneak previews and scenes from next week or whatever. Did you see the scene with Maggie on like a wagon next to Cal? I think.
Oh yeah, that was the scene that was referred to. So the AMC one is the extended version of that.
It's the extended version of that version. So you saw that scene with Cal and Maggie or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's anything that's going to happen there?
Oh, so in the scene actually, if you want to bring it up right now, it's the scene actually where Maggie, she's delivering the food down to the sanctuary actually, and the bunch of them, and it's exactly these people, and I'm just working off of memory. It's Laura, Arat, Mud, there's more. Whatever, a bunch of them. And they stop Maggie and Cal on the road because they're trying to figure out where Justin is, and the saviors that are nowhere to be found, because you think they'd come back to Sanctuary, but they didn't. As my computer's coming back. As Alden actually mentioned, I talked to some people, and these people have families. They wouldn't just up and disappear. Blah blah blah.
Right.
So. And obviously this guy Mud is being kind of a dick, and he's saying, maybe you mess with them, and maybe you do have the fuel, and maybe you're just and he goes to the back of a truck and takes a tomato and starts eating it, being that kind of usual typical shitbag kind of character.
Yeah.
And so it really just boils down to Maggie delivering the food as promised, as she says to Michonne by the end of the episode. We can skip to that because that's just there's not much to it, but there's reasons for why she does it. But then these people are out there, and they're kind of looking threatening, but I don't think anything's going to happen necessarily. Not sure. Could be, but because there's other sneak peeks that kind of say otherwise. But yeah, they're both looking for... Actually, technically, they're both kind of looking for the saviors. They're both trying to figure out what's going on, but they're not really looking at what it could be rather than what it really couldn't be. You know what I mean? Like, it could be each other. Like, why would you hijack the fuel? Why would you hide it? Why would you... why would they take Justin? I mean, is it that bad? Are they taking hostages? No, they have everything. So why would they need to do that?
Interesting.
Yeah, so here's the deal. It cuts to commercial and then goes back to, it goes to Eugene and Rick again. And here's the thing. This is the funniest thing. Do you remember sardine mac and cheese? Eugene's college fuel, basically.
Yeah.
So he brings up this other recipe idea, which kind of makes me start to think that maybe making sardine mac and cheese in the future is a terrible idea. He says, I can probably repurpose spoiled foodstuffs, boil down some ketchup, and with some of the the cucumbers, I could probably make a hearty gazpacho.
Jeez.
Right? Now I'm starting to question his judgment on food choices.
Yeah.
But as he's saying this, Rick is noticing the fight on the bridge, and he breaks it up.
Right.
It does make you wonder, what are the consequences of him doing that? Or, do you think he should have just let him fight it out? Or you kind of learn by the end of the episode that he can't win them all. you know?
Yeah. I think it was going to have to happen. Otherwise, like, it would have just been like a melee, you know, on a freaking bridge. I mean, you know, in terms of focusing on the task at hand, we got to fix this bridge, stop it, and get back to work.
Right. It's too important. And that is a very good point. Like, there's not a lot of time. You know, certain things need to be in place. You know, you're not going to get your food. This isn't like there's no like full thought here. It's just all about the tensions, and they can't put that stuff aside for 1 second. Ugh.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, but it's the way that Rick did it too. What Rick said exactly was get back to work. Do you think he should have said something else, or just pulled Justin aside, or talked to Daryl? I mean, all they did was huddle up in the tent to figure out what to do about Justin. But, like, shouldn't they have just pulled Justin aside and whatnot? And
Rick probably still had hopes that, you know, I mean, again, maybe it goes back to this whole, like, is somebody redeemable or not? And by the end of the episode, he's sort of like, no, you're a dipshit. You need to go, you know? Yeah.
And Maggie comes to that conclusion as well about Gregory. Like, finally, kind of like, I think Maggie had a little bit of doubt about Gregory, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, maybe based more on the outcome rather than the action. Like,
right.
Oh, maybe if I would have done this a bit differently. Like the means, so was it the ends don't justify the means, but the ends are justified. So, like, yeah, it's not perfect, but, you know, still not ashamed. Everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed. I don't know, anyway. Yeah, okay, so here we go. Daryl is taking the Maggie approach.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so, like, it's basically, the question is, so basically, Maggie's philosophy is like, okay, they're shitbags, and we let them live. And Daryl's kind of showing that he's thinking the same thing. But, you know, the easy question to ask is that do bad people get a pass because the bridge needs to get built? It's the same thing as Maggie. Does Earl, quote unquote, get a pass? Because he doesn't really get a pass. But are we a little bit more lenient? Do we let Earl, you know, forge the plow or reforge the plow? You know, because we need to get things done for the rest of the communities to make the community not suffer. And so, like, I want to know what you think about that, because what were you thinking? Like, it is kind of a struggle. It's like, what do you do about that, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one. But that goes back to the whole, like, who decides who's redeemable and who's not.
Exactly.
And that's the hard part. Who makes that call?
Yeah, how do you make that call? With what means, right? I mean, even if you have laws, like, okay, who's going to enforce them? That's the other part about it, too. It's one thing to have laws, but then who gets to put them into play, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, Rick is also noticing that too many savers have walked off, and they can't afford to just, you know, let people go.
Yeah.
And the one thing I noticed about Carol throughout the, you know, at least the first part of the argument is that, like, they kind of really stay in consistency when it comes to her character, because she does tend to wait and listen. You know, she stays in the background, absorbs what people are saying, and then she reacts in kind. So I kind of noticed that she was like, her hands were folded, she was tracking them with her eye movements and stuff like that, and she was kind of like chimed in when necessary. So I thought that was pretty cool. But ultimately she agrees with Daryl. She's like, you know, like, even though everybody needs to move forward, you know, it just seems like you're not listening. You're like, you're not listening to what's going on. You're not realizing the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he even Rick mentions, and this is something I said in the last episode, was that, like, even Rick acknowledges that, you know, it may have been because Gregory was hanged, but it may have been way before that. Like, he's starting to kind of come around. It's like Gregory's hanging kind of showed him a little bit some of those troubles, you know, that everybody was having, especially the Hilltop. He was kind of like, I think he was kind of taken aback by Maggie's kind of putting her balls on the table, saying, you know, hey, I've got the nuts. It's going to go my way. You know, you're going to use mostly saviors for this job.
Right.
So I think that's what kind of alerted him to that. But yeah. Oh yeah, and if you noticed it, you know, when they all leave, Carol and Daryl, you know, Daryl then Carol rather, he has the key to the future on his desk.
Yes,
and he just flips it over.
Yeah, he seems like
something to notice there.
Yep. Yeah. I noticed that as well.
I just sniffed at the mic. Okay, so now we're with Anne and Father Gabriel. All right. Okay, let's get your initial impressions, because that didn't sound very good.
No, not. It's not a bad thing. It's just like, I was like, whoa, you know. I was pleased with the whole, you know, Jadis and Gabriel thing, just because I feel that, and I kind of mentioned this, like, I don't know to who, but what I liked about season one was, one of the things that I liked about season one was the relationship between Shane and Lori, in the sense that I think it's far more realistic in an apocalyptic setting to have the sort of lustful relationship that the two of them had, rather than this sort of romantic relationship that Ezekiel and Carol have. Because I think in times of an apocalypse, very few people people are gonna honestly
get it up.
They're not gonna give a shit about like flowers and roses and romance and rings and whatever. Like they're going to be sort of like, well, the world's gone to hell, so it's like might as well, have some fun, if nothing else. I feel like that would be the more prevalent mindset. And I think that what happens between Jadis/Anne and Gabriel is basically that. So I was like, that sounds about right.
Kind of like a good mix, because it's clear that Gabriel has feelings for her. And something that I don't even know that I pointed out online, maybe, is... Do you remember who the Heapster's first hostage was?
It was Father Gabriel. Exactly. He was the one. He was the one that they took.
Exactly. How interesting! How interesting!
So he has a relationship.
Out of all the people, by the way, that could be the most pissed, it would be him.
So interesting.
And then in the end, it's kind of like they become this thing.
I wonder if it's all going to come back in some way, shape, or form, because we never were completely clear on the circumstances of his capture. You know what I mean? That was never...
He was like caught outside Alexandria, wasn't that the case?
It was never made very clear how that happened.
Yeah. I think all you saw were those boots in 2 of the episodes like prior. Like, okay, they have boots and they're watching them. But other than that, we don't really know much. Oh. Yeah, okay, so do you remember the organist that they were sketching? The organist that he's referring to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you remember what she looked like? It was I mentioned this also, like, I
remember the sketch.
Yeah. Well, you remember the sketch, but you remember the walker that she represented.
Oh.
I'm not sure if that's when Bob got it. No, he didn't get it. But yeah, it's when they were looking at that, I think it was the library maybe, but she was in that basement, and she was like wearing that kind of pink cardigan outfit with the red glasses. She looked like a librarian almost, the organist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was her. And they actually, by the way, they acknowledged that. I was kind of like patting myself on the back. They acknowledged it on Talking Dead.
Look at you.
In one of those behind the scenes, I guess, or something, like, or like going inside the dead scenes, And like they showed a picture of the walker, and I was just like, yeah, I called it. That's cool. I mean, it's not a stretch. They literally showed a picture of her. So, but I thought it was pretty cool. And like they actually made that stuff relevant. You know what I mean? They made it relevant, and they gave her an actual story. Like a significance, like a real tangible significance, like Father Gabriel's life. So, but I love the idea. I love the idea that she represents him being too afraid to make a move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And which is why he gets so spooked, or explaining the fact, or like his previous spooked outness of seeing her, as a walker.
Yeah, no, that does make sense, and it all kind of ties back. So
yeah, it gives it more significance, I think, because I think that was more like a surface thing initially when he was told to play that part and react to that role. Well, and then there's the other factor too, like recognizing the fact that they were both kind of shunned. Father Gabriel, more Anne, but Father Gabriel was not trusted by them for like seasons, I think.
Yeah, no.
Several seasons, 2 seasons.
For valid reasons.
Yeah, completely valid reasons. And same thing with Anne. It's kind of like, well, okay, all of a sudden you're somebody that we can rely on, trust, as a person, as somebody in our group. And they kind of brought that up in the sneak peeks too, by the way. It's like my money's on what they call her, Garbage Girl or something like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the guy named Mud says that, by the way.
Says what?
He says that. He calls her Garbage Girl, like when they have that standoff, but like these two like people that typically first of all wouldn't get together, but also like these two untrusted people find like trust within themselves.
So interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? And then also like she's kind of putting the moves on Father Gabriel.
Very much so.
Yeah, I think he needs that. He needs a little somebody to break him out of the show.
That whole thing was pretty funny.
Yeah. I think that's going to change him in a way.
I'm sure.
You kind of see that also with when you see those little scenes where he's recording Magna and all the rest of them.
Yeah, confident.
There's a little like. Yeah, there's like a little
confidence there.
Assuredness in his voice, Something that we wouldn't see from before. Like you'd usually see like kind Father Gabriel, but this was more like an assertive kind of like look, when you're in those scenes. I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. We go from the sketch of the organist, right, that Gabriel describes to Anne, right, at the end of that scene. The camera or the edit goes straight from that shot of that woman in the sketch straight to Glenn's face in the office of Maggie's office. I thought that was clever, because doing that tells you that at one point Anne and Maggie got together, and from memory, just like the organist woman that Gabriel gave her the info to draw from memory, she sketched and painted Glenn from memory, from Maggie's memory. So something going on here. Like, so, like, you know, Anne obviously had this thing with Maggie and commissioned her to paint these pictures. You know, so like it implies like maybe a sort of relationship that they may have.
Right.
You know, obviously she must be grateful because there's more than just one painting of Glenn.
Yeah.
So I thought that was clever. Using that edit is also a storytelling device. Just sprinkle, like same as the last episode, just sprinkling in implications. I thought that's just so goddamn clever.
I agree.
Oh, okay. Here's another thing, just right after that. You know, obviously doing the talking, they're talking back and forth about the school and all that stuff. But the thing that I found interesting was, you know, Jesus picks up this letter. It's obviously the Commonwealth. It's with G for Georgie. You know, I thought it was for Gregory at first. But yeah, you see him pick up the letter. He's like, oh, you know, they still want to recruit you. And it's, first of all, there's a lot going on in that statement. One is that they're communicating.
Yes, exactly.
Via letters. Like, what? Okay.
Yeah, like you know, USPS.
Yeah, who's delivering these letters? How are they coming? There's a lot going on here. Like, because as far as you know, like, they're out of touch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, no, exactly. It's like, I think that was, to me, that was a very interesting tidbit because, like you said, they're still in communication somewhat on a regular fashion.
Right.
And Georgie keeps pleading, I guess, or making the case for Maggie to go and join her. Them. And I think that is Maggie's exit. When I heard that, I was like, and that's how Maggie exits the show.
Oh, see, I didn't think that. First of all, I was already floored by the fact that join her? Wait, join her? What? How?
It would make
what?
At the mother of all bunkers. That's where Maggie's going to go.
Yeah, but you and I know that.
What the government has already right now, basically, is where Maggie's going to go.
Which, by the way, by the end of the episode, you get a sense that maybe this is real because you do see, and this is just worth dropping, is just wait, was it the helicopter? Because it wasn't as loud. I was wondering if it was an actual plane.
I might need to rewatch it, but I think it was a helicopter. But I will double check. I will watch it.
Yeah. Turn the sound up. Put headphones on if you need to, because I had headphones on. I didn't hear because I don't think helicopters can fly that high. Do you know what I mean?
Well, but the last time, I tried to compare it with the last time that Jada saw the helicopter when she had Negan trapped.
Yeah, well, that was loud.
I remember when it was loud.
Yeah, and it was windy, and it was picking up wind, and they couldn't. But I think no. But it was, you know, it was far enough away, but it was still making noise. Do you know what I mean? So it makes me wonder. Yeah, like Led Zeppelin. Oh, it makes me wonder. But yeah, I was just floored by the fact that joining that, like the idea of joining her.
She's gonna go. She's gonna go to the Commonwealth, and that's gonna be the exit of Maggie on the show, and potentially Rick's as well.
Yes, that's what I think. Yeah,
I think both of them potentially could be going to the Commonwealth because the Commonwealth have the resources there for a mother who has a child, and let's say Rick has an injury that requires like more than just like a few stitches or something,
right?
Or he's hanging on death's door potentially.
Well, actually, yeah, that's interesting.
It's like that could be, you know, that helicopter could take him and Maggie to the Commonwealth where they can be, you know, first of all, like to make contact as representatives of these communities and basically kind of meet with Georgie's people of the Commonwealth, because Georgie is part of the ruler. She's not the entire ruler.
Right.
Maybe it's in the comics or whatever. So yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that when I heard that little nugget and I saw that scene, I was like, Maggie's going to the Commonwealth. That's what's happening. And it leaves the door open for the future.
Holy shit.
That's what I thought.
I think so too. Yeah. Jesus finally talks to her about Maggie. To Maggie about the issue of Earl. Like, basically, Tammy, first of all, he introduces it by saying, like, look, Tammy's just waiting outside his cell. Like, what do you want to do about this?
Right.
This is not going away.
Yeah.
And, you know, Maggie's first instinct has been, by the way, to kind of say, are you questioning me? Which always gets me goddamn nervous, by the way.
Well, yeah, but she hung a dude.
But I can't. I did like a football touchdown with what I keep wanting to say Tom Paine, with what Jesus says. He says basically, you know, good people can disagree.
Yeah.
You know, she says you're a good person, and good people can disagree.
Yeah.
And there's something so great about how he chose his words, because I just did this football touchdown. I said classical liberalism. Classical liberalism. It's the idea of just tolerating the views of others. You know, it's to start. You know, respecting other people's ideas, embracing liberty while, you know, discussing diverse opinions and stuff like that, and accepting them. Well, not accepting them, but like not. But I was like reading something about how it's not about, because she says do you think I'm wrong? And he goes, it's not about being right or wrong. I can say you're right or wrong, and that's subjective. Honestly, good people disagree, and that's fine. You're still my friend, you know? And it just got me thinking, like, I think more people need to talk like that. I think a lot of people are good. I think a lot of people are shouting over their heads, over each other's heads. I see it all the time. I see it on Facebook. I see it on Instagram. I see it on like stupid comments about like what people think of Daryl and all that stuff. And it's just like, you're wrong. Like, you're wrong. Like, well, you're both wrong. He's fictional, so he's not a real person. So, but like that's the thing. It's like it doesn't really matter. But like even like political opinions and stuff like that. Like at the end of the day, it's like, stop shouting over each other, man. Like you're not. Neither of you is right or wrong in how you feel. Both of you want good things, honestly. I mean, at the end of the day, you can find a bridge to build between each other. But that's the point. He put the keystone in that bridge. What he said was the keystone to everything, to what this episode means. And I thought that was just, I was so pleased with what he said. It's just so poignant. It just covers more than just the show, you know? It's everything I'm feeling inside, Carol. It's everything.
Everything.
So let's check that box. Okay, so here we go. Let's get to the scene with Tammy and Earl, and as a result of that conversation, implied that when you see Tammy go down the stairs and meet up with Earl, what'd you think about that whole scene?
That was very heartfelt. Thought it was a good scene. Thought it was well done.
Yeah, it says everything that Earl basically says about Tammy. Because I mean, you see her meet up with Earl ahead of time. Was it ahead of time saying like, I didn't expect to have to put you in here. You built this cell.
Yeah, I didn't think you would be the first person I put behind them.
Yeah, especially since you're the one who made them. So, go figure. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing like with him saying, you know, I forgive you, that sort of thing, and like him saying like, well, listen, it's not like I thank you, but you're not the person I need forgiveness from.
Right.
You know, and it does bring to the fore, like I think the main takeaway from that whole interaction is that first of all, you get the idea of Maggie struggling to kind of, you know, break that horse inside her that's kind of, you know, raging and saying he deserves it and shoot for something a little higher ideal. I mean, I don't know how long that feeling's going to last. Right. By the way, I mean, just from the look of the sneak peeks, for goodness sake. But it's kind of a nice calm to the storm. It allows her just enough wiggle room to actually let Earl out and allow him under guard. You know, he's under armed guard to reforge that plow. And as she says to Michonne near the end of the episode, you know, so in the end she does the right thing. She's able to get the food surpluses because of that and all that stuff. But then there's that one part where Michonne basically asks him why, you know, after she's sat down and spoke with him, she's like, why? Because she doesn't say it right away to Earl. She goes, thank you. And then she explains to Michonne, like, yeah, I did it because, well, you can say it.
Well, no, she basically talks about her father, Hershel, and how he apparently was a drinker. But, you know, he was able to redeem himself, and everything that Hershel did, you know, affected plenty of other people. His life affected plenty of other people. So if he was able to be redeemable, why not Earl?
But somebody had to give him a second chance to be redeemed. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. No, exactly.
So, you know, had they not done that, like Rick, Carl, having been shot, there's a whole bunch of things that would have never happened. Yeah. Just never happened. And Michonne says she's one of them. So it makes sense. You're talking to the right person. Yeah, and by the way, do you remember the scenes with Rick and like, remember Hershel shaved his beard? Yeah, he shaved his beard, and then they go to a bar, but he doesn't drink. He tells him he doesn't drink. Do you remember those scenes? Like I could rewatch that, and I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, and then you bring that fact and you make it a thing. Yeah. Right.
You're right.
That's so cool.
You remember that. I like these. I like these little throwbacks. You know?
They make the series relevant. They really they don't waste anything. It's like your mom telling you not to. Like, did you have that mom that would tell you to kind of finish your plate, that sort of thing? Or and if you left like a sizable portion, she would definitely reuse it or something. Or like somebody else would eat it or something. Yeah, it's like that. They don't waste anything. They're like, they take every little tidbit and make it relevant.
Absolutely.
Kind of like the organist, you know, Father Gabriel's organist. Like, okay, they make it a plot device. They make it a reason for him not for being afraid to kind of hook up with Anne. You know, I love how she clearly defined, you know, obviously like resolved the conflict between like Earl and Gregory. They said it out loud, like why Gregory, not Earl, and yeah, the whole redeemed and not redeemed, you know. Right. Let's see. I don't really care about there is a little tidbit about Arat and Rosita. I know we kind of brought it up, but it's the idea that because throughout this episode you're seeing sprinkling of these conflicts, not conflict but tension between people who had previously had bad encounters. So like one of those happens to be Rosita and Arat. Because you mentioned yourself, I think a couple times in last season, that how Arat like cut Rosita's face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I can literally go back to maybe like episode 2 or 3 or something like that.
I remember
you mentioning that. And then now here they're having this conversation about trust.
Yeah. I mean, it's all coming together, which I really like.
And making it relevant, right? Making it relevant. So like, it's the two things. It's the idea that we're pitting these two together on purpose. Like, they didn't have to be paired together. They could have said, no, I won't work with her. But the showrunner said, okay, let's assume that they're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes sense because now you're forcing these people, and they're okay. Like, I wouldn't trust you, but here we are.
But here we are.
We're trying. Mother Goose, Tara on the lookout. So yeah, the whole thing. There's two things going on in that scene. I love the way they kind of did that. Like, it's not often that you see, by the way, one person trying to have a conversation while the other one's trying to have a conversation. Like, you usually just see people speaking in turns. You know what I mean? It's to have that like rare moment where like Tara's trying to bug him, and then Alden's trying to bug him, and then like they're trying to fight for each other's attention. You don't get to see that often on television.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of interesting, but that as like just the TV and film thing, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
Yeah, no, it was well done.
Yeah, but the whole kind of logistics thing though, like of how they're trying to steer this herd and how they're doing it.
They have a system down for how they handle these things.
Oh yeah, and we find out that like there's Piper 1 and Piper 2. Jerry's Piper 1, he does his job, but when Piper 2 is supposed to do his job, he starts to say like, okay, what happened to him? Oh, who's that? Oh, are they okay? Blah blah blah, and then you find out it's shitbag Justin by the end of it. I wasn't clear on that, by the way, at first.
No, I was not totally clear on that.
I was trying to figure out what that was all about. And then rewatching it again, I'm like, oh my god, it's this guy again?
Yeah.
And then you're like in the same camp as Daryl. You're like, you shitbag son of a bitch. She deserves to have a backhanded pan in the face.
Yeah.
That's now been like, I'm not memed, but like edited to death. Like everybody's been like just taking that photo and redistributing it and regramming it and stuff like that because it's just so perfect.
I know.
It like makes me wonder if like Norman Reedus actually hit Zach McGowan in the face. It just looks that good.
It does look really good.
I flat out asked him. I'm like, dude, it looks like you hurt this guy. And if you didn't,
it does look it.
And if you didn't, Zach McGowan, damn, that's good acting, man.
Good acting, yeah. No matter how you cut it.
Yeah, exactly. No matter how you slice that motherfucker. Okay, yeah. And so what Alden has been struggling to say to Rick while all this drama is going on is that he mentions the whole families thing about the sanctuary people that are missing, and it's a relevant point because normally you'd think that, oh, okay, these saviors are just going on the side. They're trying to stir some trouble. They're just trying to leave. If anything, they just don't want to be a part of this fucking new future and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it seems to be like he's inserting this plot device. And again, this guy is trusted by Hilltop. He still has ties to the sanctuary. Alden can be a lot of things in the series, by the way. He has an opportunity right now.
Yeah.
To bridge a gap.
Here we go. Here we go again.
Yep.
It all goes back down to that bridge.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? This key character. Ugh. But it's like it's almost like overt when you really start to talk about it. But it's good. It's very clever. Okay, the lumber crew scene. Because Piper 2 isn't there, Aaron has his incident. The savior's on top of that lumber pile, drop it on his arm. And as Aaron tries to push the other dude away, obviously it falls on him. And then awesome fight scene. Rick gets to have this like interesting Donkey Kong moment.
Yeah.
When he shoots the string, all the logs kind of go down.
Yeah, I was like,
and zombies can't Mario jump.
Nope, they can't. So they get squashed. Yep, they get squashed.
Yeah. Oh, that was so cool, by the way.
What's good effects?
Yeah, just to smushy faces off. Just like, I mean, it kind of looked like it was like their faces like it was like a wiped turd or something. Oh. Something to that. I don't know. But yeah, it's just a very enjoyable scene. And like really, like you're sitting there, you're getting riled up over what happens. It's like, oh my god, they did this, and then you also start to realize, oh, the beard, Aaron, he looks kind of like Rick from the comic books a little bit.
Yeah, he does. A lot.
Yeah. And by the way, this wasn't like I think Ross just came in on the first few days of table reads and stuff like that, and he said, and everybody's like, why'd you grow the beard? And he was like, I just kind of thought the character needed to change. And I think they might have wrote that in. Like, because he looked so similar to the comic, they just wrote,
really?
Yeah, I think so. Because if you think about it, I mean, yeah, it's a good way of like moving the story along in terms of increasing the ratcheting tensions between, the saviors and everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. But, it didn't have to be there. There's all this other stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think having that adds the Aaron and Aaron and Daryl are, in love with each other kind of aspect. They could push that together. I don't know.
Yeah, true.
And the best part of that scene, and I know it's stupid, but like just watching, what's her name, Venskis, the first Oceanside girl woman that comes out with a harpoon. She shoots a harpoon at the first walker's head. And like with that, first of all, with that perfect pose, that action pose, like she shoots it off screen and they pan to her and she has that kind of like, look, like, here's a good profile shot. I was like, that is so badass.
It was.
And then the rest of them rushing behind her, that kind of thing. It's like a scene out of like Avengers or like the 300 or something. Mm-hmm. Oh man, they're like giving everybody like a little bit of like screen time basically. Now when Daryl finally confronts Justin, it wasn't clear to me at first how bad it was, because it's one thing if he just kind of jerked off and like didn't bother turning on the thing or doesn't care or whatever. But then just to find out that the walkie it's a solar walkie, like
I know
it recharges in the sun. I didn't catch that at first. I'm like, oh my god, this is so bad. Like he's just
solar,
solar powered walkie, and it's just kind of like either he's just complete idiot, which is entirely possible.
Yes,
entirely possible.
Very much so.
Or like part of me thought that okay, maybe he's kind of like is the word mentally challenged, like
no,
or like a learning disability or something, because you don't know. He doesn't say much. He's just kind of angry.
He's just always angry. He's always pissed off.
And kind of dumb. Like, what are you doing? What? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I keep thinking like, okay, he's exactly like Rick says about him by the end of it when Rick tells him to leave, And he tells him to leave specifically because I don't know what your bitch is angry about, that sort of thing.
Right.
Like, there's I didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And Rick is about to see the person that he says nothing happened. And it's kind of like, again, taming that wild horse, man. Rick kind of just reined it in and said, I know shitbags like you. I used to pick up dirtbags like you. I know.
I like that reference.
How awesome was that reference?
It was very cool because it's sort of like, like when I was a cop, I used to pick up like morons like you, drunk on a Friday night or whatever, I love that. I had a visual.
And why is it so good? I'll tell you why. It's exactly the same thing as what I was saying about Maggie. Like bringing it back to season 2, her on the horses with Glenn and blah, 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 and knowing that this is what she does on the farm, and they're bringing it back to season 9. But the one thing that we never, ever get to see, ever, and like not even really when Deanna made Rick like the security guy, you didn't really get to see him being a cop. Not really. You saw him dress kind of like one, but he didn't act like one.
No.
But for him to kind of really bring that up, by the way, is huge. We never really get to hear him talk about being a cop. Not like John Dory. By the way, I mean, that brings up a whole conversation about fear characters actually talking about their lives. But yeah, that's been a kind of a critique that we kind of forget every season, is that the one thing we kind of wait to hear is kind of like him incorporating some of him being a cop. But like between the bad aim and that Negan scene last season, like near the end, like just you like when he started shooting Negan and kept missing, we were like all like, are you sure he used to be a cop?
Yeah, are you sure?
And I think he proved himself this episode by shooting the strings.
I think so.
In the Donkey Kong moments.
Yes.
But that's great. It's great that they kind of brought that element because we never got to see it. We never got to see it ever.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
And then and the people that remained just kind of accepted it, that, that's just how the show's going to be.
Right.
But yeah, oh yeah. Okay, here we go. There's a question here. Do you think Daryl should have tempered his emotions when it came to Justin?
I mean, it probably didn't help matters.
Right.
But yeah.
There's a part of me that agrees with him wholeheartedly. Like, I was really angry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then when you think about it, if he would have just taken a breath, listened to Justin for a second, figure out where everything went wrong, express why his job was so important. I mean, especially like leading walkers away. Jesus Louises, come on, man.
Yeah.
From the bridge, or from the lumber, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, his people were there. Mud was there. mud. It does bring up a good point because, like, you could agree with Daryl all you want, but it doesn't make it right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he's a shitbag, and maybe he'll never be reached, and that's fine. Or maybe you can't get everybody to come along for the journey, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we get to do that. And Carol sees that too. Right. She's like, okay, enough, Pookie.
I know.
Oh yeah, I mean, it does prove that Michonne is right too. And everybody in their own way kind of acknowledges by the end of it that, like, okay, we do need something that's bigger than ourselves. You know?
Yep, absolutely.
Now we get to this interesting part. Rick visiting Aaron, and Rick. So there's this thing. I mean, Rick, you start to see the scene go a certain way. And when I was watching this, I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Rick is going to start apologizing. He's going to start backpedaling. He's not going to necessarily do things the old way. But he's going to be like, you know, he's going to, you know, obviously he's going to start listening more. But you know, he's going to go back to some of his own ways just because of what they did. You know, what their actions caused Aaron. Like, he's apologizing, and then Aaron just stops him in his tracks. You know, he says it's worth it. All of it's worth it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I mean, did you think, when you saw that scene, did you think it was going to go that way?
I wasn't sure what to expect, to be honest, from that scene.
I kind of thought, I mean, you see that he's kind of going that way, like almost backpedaling. Like, I'm sorry that this led to what happened to you, that sort of thing.
Yeah. You do get that feel.
Which does tend to happen on the show, though. Like, something bad will happen and Rick will kind of just backpedal, you know? Yeah, and Rick does acknowledge his impatience finally. Like, you know, let's be here. Let's be already here. Come on, let's do it. You know, pushing people to their limits. And Aaron says it's worth it. And Daryl, and just keep in mind, Daryl and Enid are still there. They're, like, listening to this.
Right.
And Daryl, of all people, who's not been listened to, you know, Rick is kind of just acknowledging, like, I'm working towards something better. But so that's the thing. Aaron says something very important. Like, you don't understand. Like, from my perspective, the world was supposed to end, and you being in the picture, you know, it turned that upside down. Like, it's just it's not the end of the world anymore. It's the start of a whole new one, new one. You know? Right. Which it's easy to kind of get lost in what Daryl and Maggie and even Jesus have been saying about how, you know, these people, they need to be put down or like, you know, put up or shut up or something like that, and like kind of disregard Rick and his new order, new world. But like then when you see it from Aaron's perspective, it's kind of like with his arm cut off and everything, it's kind of like, man, he is right. Like, this could have been this is kind of like, you can't, there's no other way to go really. If you backslide now, like Gregory, and where's it going to lead you? You're just going to need a Negan, you know?
Right.
So then, you get to Gabe and Anne, and they kind of knock boots.
Yes.
And one thing I want to ask about that scene, though, is if Father Gabriel was keeping watch, do you think Justin would have been okay?
No,
I don't think so either. I was just wondering, though, because it's kind of like, where was he supposed to keep watch? There, near the pond? I don't know. Anyway.
Right.
You never know. Or no, he was supposed to keep watch from the crane, right? Because that's where Anne ends up, but I'm not sure. Like, by the end of the episode, Anne is up there with if you didn't notice, because I know you watched the episode on your phone.
What did she have in her hand?
She had one of her old little she had made a sculpture. Kind of like the cat one from the junkyard, right? But it was in the shape of a frog. It was like a mesh frog sculpture.
Interesting. Okay.
How adorable is that? After Father Gabriel's explaining about the frogs and reminding him about the woods out back, she makes him a little frog sculpture. So sweet.
It's very sweet.
Okay. Now that scene there's a scene where, okay, you open up and Rick is leaving a tent, and this was in the sneak peek, by the way, too. Like, you see Rick looking on the campfire and people surrounding it, and they're all happy. And if not for that scene with Aaron, I don't think he would appreciate that campsite scene, like with everybody just happy and you know, having a normal life, especially seeing Carol and Zeke and what happens. And Carol's just kind of like, I could try that thing on, you know, see how it fits, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't fit, we have to take it to a jeweler, and, you know, it's just for that. That's fine.
Yeah.
And what does Ezekiel say? But I wrote a speech.
I know. It's like, you can read it to me later.
But he's really happy, though, by the end of it. Like, I've never seen him smile that wide before.
Yeah.
You know that smiling where your eyes are closed? You're just kind of like,
yes.
That was him right there.
Yeah, it was.
And,
you're right. And
Rick sees all of this, and that kind of, like, brings you back to Negan. He's like, you see all this thing. He's like, he actually says this exactly. He says, bad as the day was, when it was done, they came together. Not all of them, but enough.
Right.
I mean, and they chose to be together at the end of the day.
Right.
No matter what happens, it's human nature to come together. That's just what we do.
That's what he says.
And then, when am I gonna get to see it?
Never.
Yeah, you're gonna die behind these bars, Negan.
which he's not buying. He's like, "Meh."
And they both point out, like, you know, like, when are you going to stop acting like you're in charge? And like Negan says, you know, when are you going to stop pretending that you are? You know, that kind of thing. It's kind of a good point, though. And it's really disturbing to me, too. Because if he's not in charge, sort of, who is? And then mentioning Carl. Like, Negan tries to get under Rick's skin by, like, mentioning Carl, and
yeah, he's like, don't do that.
Yeah, one thing Negan says, and I don't know if he knows what it means or whatever, but like he says, your family's gone. And there's Judith, right?
Maybe it's just a general term.
I mean, maybe. I mean, he did mention, I mean, I don't know if he mentioned Lori. He found out about Lori through Carl. Do you remember what Carl said about how he had to put down his mother?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he does know about everything.
Yeah, so he knows.
But so I guess do you think he knows about Judith, though?
No, I think he knows that Judith is fine.
Well, but that Judith is his kid or not his kid?
Oh, I don't know if he knows that.
Interesting, huh? But he says, like, your family's gone. Like, well, do you, what? Really? Okay. Because he hung out with Judith, and he held her in his arms, so, I don't know, anyway. Yeah, okay, and it brings you back to Anne with the plane in the sky. We pointed that out. We have to look at that again because, I mean, I want it to be the helicopter just for consistency's sake, but just the fact that there's just no noise whatsoever, almost. Who knows? Okay. And then it gets you to the Justin scene, right? And what's clear about that scene is that he's seeing somebody that he's familiar with, right? But then he's knocked unconscious by them.
Yes.
Okay, so this is where we get to the good part. The part that we can just unpack everything that we've been thinking about with regard to the Whisperers. It's definitely the horde on the bridge, the two herds colliding. The saviors that are missing, right? Do you think that's the Whisperers?
I think so.
Okay, safe to say.
I'm pretty sure.
Now here's where it gets a little complicated. Him recognizing the person that he's talking to.
He could still be a Whisperer because they skin their victims and wear their faces as masks.
Exactly.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, especially in those circumstances of being dark.
At night, yep.
I think it's plausible.
Yeah. It makes me kind of think, though, oh my god, I hope this is not the case. No, because they're not that good. So hold on a second. Let's take a backtrack, because I'm going to ask this question. Are the Whisperers that good when it comes to skinning their victims, that if they skin them fast enough, they can look exactly like them?
Yeah, I mean, they basically, like, skin them and kind of, like, sew up the back. So it's like a literal, like, mask that you wear over your face. I mean, granted, this is comic, so it's not necessarily, I don't know how it translates to screen and how well it would translate to screen. But
right.
I mean, it seems like Angela Kang is excited about some of the stuff that they're doing for the Whisperers and how they're doing these effects, how they're visualizing it, or how they've begun to start to put this together. I think it's them. I really do.
Well, because it brings me back to that scene with Maggie, and makes me wonder whether all those people, and I hope it's not all those people, because that some of them, like, I kind of wanted to see what would happen with Laura, and maybe Daryl, but I don't know. It sounds like she, in one part of the scene, was kind of reasonable looking, trying to break up everybody. This is not what you want to do, blah blah blah. But when it's Arat, it's Mud, and it's Regina. That's who was there. That was the fourth person, and then Laura. That gets me thinking, if they can do it if they can be so convincing when it comes to, like, recently deceased people and skinning them and putting them on their faces as masks. I mean, could they, like, assume the identity completely of somebody else? Because then it makes me kind of wonder whether they are sowing the division. You know what I mean? Like, really sowing the division, like, by being other people. And maybe Mud isn't the guy's real name. It's just I don't know. It's just thinking a little too far ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah. So sneak peeks, and this is where things get a little juicy, right? Carol.
I'm here. I am perfectly here. I am
the other Carol. She says that. She says that they're going to fight whether they want it or not, whether they want to or not. You know, it's just inevitable. There's going to be a fight. And then it cue the basically the standoff between the Hilltop, Oceanside, and the Saviors. But then she also says something like, end it before it begins, and you see her holster her gun, taking it out, and it makes you start to think, like, okay, is this old Carol again, like old Orthodox Carol, like cut it from the root kind of thing? Because if she's going to start to be authoritarian and all that stuff, and just start to, pluck things from the root and from the trunk and all that stuff, this could be pretty bad, especially because when you consider the fact that, like, in another quick flash, it shows that guy Mud, eyeing her pistol and stuff like that. And as we both know, the Saviors aren't armed. Right. They aren't armed for a reason, because that's what they did to them, So yeah, the primary focus of the sneak peeks is expressing the fact that they're not armed and they're worried because now their people are disappearing.
Right.
Right, and they're feeling like, okay, you guys are going a little too far. Like, you think that we're going to come out and we're going to try to shoot you guys, but like honestly, we just want to defend ourselves. And then there's a schism.
Right.
I mean, like, do you think they're in some ways right though? Like, do you think that like they have an argument though? Like, if their people are disappearing, and it's kind of like, well, you're not just going to let us die, are you?
Right. Yeah. No, I think that they're acting out of reasonable fear, for sure.
But here's the thing. Now, do you agree with Rick or do you agree with them when it comes to arming them?
I wouldn't arm them.
Here's the key scene. Maggie and Daryl, we gave Rick's way a chance.
What? Wait. Say that again?
She says to Daryl, we gave Rick's way a chance.
Yeah, they did.
Implying that no more. What do you think about that?
I think it's reasonable, unfortunately. Sorry.
Oh, snap. Schism.
Sorry, Rick.
I
mean, it's a very ideal way of doing things, but it's not necessarily means that it works.
Not every good thing. What is the expression? Not everything that good. What is it? The hard work is good and blah blah blah. Not everything good is hard or something like that. What is the expression? I can't remember.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah. But yeah, and then Rick's voiceover, like just kind of overlapping that scene almost, is like Rick says, "You do this, and there's no going back." And some people in the episode, who says this? Laura says this, Laura says this in the Talking Dead sneak peek. Okay, so you have two people. You have DJ, the guy with the beard, and he kind of like picks up the axe, right? And Laura kind of intervenes and says, "No, dude, if you do this, there's just no going back." Also, so she says the same thing Rick is saying. Like it makes you start to think that like there are people on both sides that are advocating to kind of calm down. Like if you go past this point, it's going to ruin all the progress that we made. There are some people that appreciate what's going on right now and does not want it to kind of go down in flames. So, I mean, I get it. Like, I get everything that the Saviors have done, but I think a lot of them were kind of motivated out of fear,
Yeah.
And that they thought that this had to be a certain way. And then Rick comes in on horseback to stop the fighting. Kind of cool. Season 1 vibe.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is that you do see Carol by herself lurking around with her knife drawn. So it makes me think that like she's in some sort of trying to chase somebody down. And I think it's in the dark, I'm not sure, but like now I'm kind of worried, like what's going on? Are we gonna maybe encounter some people? I don't know. Is she gonna see something that she doesn't want to see too?
I don't know. Let's see.
And that, my friends, is where we leave off. I mean, technically, I think we covered everything to death.
I think so too.
To the point where I'm gonna have a hard days at work tomorrow.
We need to get some rest.
Yeah, are you going to be able to get some rest, by the way?
Oh, I will.
Yeah?
Oh, I will. It will happen.
Okay,
I need to.
I'm glad. I mean, Eddie's going to basically take care of them, right?
No, I'm just going to like hit the sack as soon as we wrap up, and no fooling around, like no scoping the internet, whatever. Just go straight to sleep. And
oh yeah, because you're in the business center, right? So I was like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But like, I just meant in terms of like, will you be able to like kind of sleep in?
There's no sleeping in when you're.
Oh no.
No, there's no sleeping in anymore.
Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I get by. I mean, I'm just a bad person, so sometimes I just come into work late or something. But yes.
I've done that too.
Yeah, I know. I could tell, like, after a while, just kind of like, you just can't keep coming into work on time when you're going to sleep at 2 in the morning or something.
No. And I mean, I gauge it depending on the day. If it's a day where I feel like I could potentially do that and it's not going to, the world isn't going to fall apart because I'm a little late, then fine, like. Yeah. But if it's
like
a
if
day
you have
where
to
it's
be
like,
up for a specific reason, right?
Yeah, then it's sort of like, okay, I know that I have the flexibility to work with it. But I mean, there are other times where I'm like, man, I have no wiggle room here.
Yeah, there's no way. I've been there. And you get that like hour, 2 hours, and then you're up, and then you just, and you know what?
Yeah, you have another choice.
Yeah, when you motivate yourself, it's kind of like, you know what? We're here. We just got to do it. I know that when 1 or 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock is going to roll around, I'm going to have a hard time. But yeah, I'll be up, It's that like it's the same feeling you get when you have to be up for a flight. It's like you get up, you're done, you got to make that flight, so it's happening. So.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So I'm hoping I don't have to be that way tomorrow. There you go. As long as you're not catching a flight, I think we're okay.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. So with that, everybody, Carol, enjoy the fun in the sun. I think largely our broadcast was successful, to be honest. I think there are tweaks that we can do to kind of get it to work better live in the future. But
yeah,
I think we did. We got like basically an hour and over an hour and a half in.
That's good.
By the way, it's not bad.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
So we could still be broadcasting. I don't even know. I'll say that much. But with that, have fun, and I guess we're gonna see you guys on Sunday. And Carol, you'll be back?
I'll be back
by then. Okay.
I will be back. I'll be back on the East Coast and in the US of A.
And we'll be preparing for Walker Stalker Con.
God, more to come on that.
Oh yeah, and lastly, but not leastly, is that we're going to be working on some giveaways too in the future. We're gonna integrate a little giveaway system in the on the website.
Exciting.
And we're working on the prizes. They're in the works.
Yep.
And they're gonna be some good. They're gonna be some good things too. We're gonna put some money down for some good prizes that you're gonna love. And we're gonna shut this. We're gonna shut this singing shit down. And we'll see you guys on Sunday. And talk to you soon.
See you next time.
In person, maybe.
Oh.
Good night, guys.